A very good evening to all my dear students. So I can see that many of you have already joined, and this is the fifth session for our chapter number 9, which is audit of items of financial statements, right? And students, today we'll be starting with the various items, the various elements of profit and loss account, right? The revenue items. So I can see that Dhyanesh, Varsha, Lakshmi, Kanhaiya, Dhruvi, Harshita, Jyoti, Aman, Ramnivas. These students are already joined and I'm very good. I hope you all are also good. Thank you, Dhyanesh. So students, in our balance sheet captions, one of the item is left, which is provisions and contingent liabilities. So we will do one thing. First, we'll start with the P&L items, and then after the break, we will be completing that one topic which is left with respect to balance sheet item, right? Before starting for the session for today, again, I would like to all of you as to whether you have gone through the module till where we have covered. And as I've already told you in the last session also, the additional regulatory information that is given in notes in your module are very, very important. Apart from that, the disclosure requirements. Why? Because all these are the amendment in the Schedule 3, which were effective from 1st April 2021, right? And we have discussed all of them in detail. So again, I'll request you to please go through the module if you haven't done that, right? So Dhyanesh is saying that he has done the homework, which is very good. So let me just share the screen. So as I told you that today we'll be starting with the income statement captions, and without looking at the module or your or the screens, tell me what are the various assertions with respect to the income statement. Hana? We have discussed all the assertions with respect to the income statement, with respect to the income, the expenses in the very first session for this chapter. So the various assertions are occurrence. So let us try to understand these assertions with the help of an example also. So if you remember, I gave you this example only, that if the sales are appearing at 20 lakhs, right, then the management is asserting that these sales have actually occurred during the year, right? These sales have actually occurred during the year and they pertain to the entity. Completeness, it means that all of the sales that were supposed to be recorded or recognized in the books of accounts have been considered, and none of the sales is omitted, right? So these are what the keywords. Remember, we have done this in detail in our first session. Cutoff, it means the sales have been accounted for in the correct period. Okay? So cutoff means that you consider that till 31st March, till the cutoff date, all the sales have been considered. It should not happen that the sales which should have been considered in financial year 21-22, these should not be considered in the next year or vice versa, right? Measurement, that the sales have been measured accurately as is required by the applicable FRM. Okay? The discounts have been considered properly, the sales return, everything has been considered properly. Presentation and disclosure, the presentation and disclosure, the classification, the segregation of the revenue, the sales, as is required by the applicable FRF Schedule 3 Part 2 to the Companies Act, the same has been done by the management. तो मैनेजमेंट ने जब 20 lakhs की सेल दिया है, इसका मतलब क्या है कि ये सब हुआ है. And what is the responsibility of the auditor? Auditor is going to check as to whether all these things have actually been complied with. That is occurrence assertion, completeness assertion, cutoff assertion, measurement assertion, presentation and disclosure assertion. Okay? So now I'm hoping that all these assertions are clear to you. Like these assertions should be in your blood now. You should be able to know as to what is meant by which assertion. All these assertions. Okay? Okay. Now let us start with the sales of products and services. Okay. So tell me, just keep in mind the audit procedures that we have considered for debtors, trade receivables also. Why? Because sales include cash sales as well as credit sales, and credit sales से आपके क्या आते हैं? Debtors. ठीक है? Now, again, your mind churning session. You will have to tell me as to, if I ask you कि you need to verify the sales of ABC Limited. ठीक है? ABC Limited is your client and the sales have been shown at 20 lakhs during the year. ठीक है? Tell me what all documents है ना. अभी specific assertion I'm not saying, I'm just saying कि documents बताओ कौन कौन से आपके mind में आते हैं कि sales को verify करना है. ठीक है? सी कन्हैया, मेजरमेंट का क्या मतलब है कि जो सेल्स को मेजर किया है ना वो एक्यूरेटली किया है, राइट. डिफरेंट काइंड ऑफ डिस्काउंट्स का डिफरेंट ट्रीटमेंट होता है ना, जैसे ट्रेड डिस्काउंट का अलग ट्रीटमेंट होता है ना, योर इंसेंटिव्स का अलग ट्रीटमेंट होता है. सो दैट हैज बीन डन एज इज रिक्वायर्ड बाय द एप्लीकेबल एफआरएफ, है ना. द सेल्स रिटर्न इज has been considered. So the amount that is getting reflected, that is the correct measurement of the sales as is required by the applicable FRF. ठीक है, इसको अभी और भी डिटेल में डिस्कस करेंगे मिस्टर कन्हैया, है ना, फिर आपको और अच्छे से ये समझ आएगा. ठीक है. सो यू मेनी ऑफ यू आर सेइंग सेल्स इनवॉइस. ठीक है, विच इज करेक्ट. ठीक है. सेल्स बुक. ठीक है. रिटर्न रिप्रेजेंटेशन. ठीक है. Then you are saying GST return, which is absolutely correct. ठीक है. और क्या लिख रहे हो आप सर? एक्सटर्नल कंफर्मेशन, ये भी ठीक है. सो ये क्या होता है? SC 505, ये वाला भी बताना. रिटर्न रिप्रेजेंटेशन क्या होता है? द सेल्स ऑर्डर और द कॉन्ट्रैक्ट कॉपीज. ठीक है. इंटरनल कंट्रोल, एब्सोल्युटली करेक्ट. इंटरनल कंट्रोल तो पक्का से चेक करना है बहुत डिटेल में. ठीक है. Comparing with the previous year information, which is absolutely correct. ठीक है. So the entire set of audit procedures with respect to verification of various assertion of sales will revolve around these documents only, है ना. अब जैसे आप रिटर्न रिप्रेजेंटेशन किसके लिए लोगे? दैट ऑल सेल्स हैव बीन कंसीडर्ड, है ना. सो वो थोड़ा सा we will have to see. SA 580, which is absolutely correct with respect to written representation. ठीक है. So whosoever is writing the incorrect SA number, I always tell you that it's better that you do not mention it in the exam. Like if you are writing some wrong SA number, so it is always advisable not to mention. Try to always remember the correct SA number. ठीक है. Credit note, absolutely correct. Credit note or credit memos. Analytical procedure, which is also correct. ठीक है. So how all these analytical procedures, all these documents will be verified, we will just see. ठीक है. Now students, the sales, अच्छा tell me, the sales of any organization ABC Limited, it is going to have an impact on the profits, है ना. So the auditor must perform the audit procedures in order to ensure that the various assertions with respect to the sales figure, these are properly verified, right? Now the sales start with when the customer purchases the goods and it ends when the payment is received, right? So when the goods are purchased till when the time the payment is received from the customer, each and everything the auditor will have to see. ठीक है. Now, if you remember, and again a test for all of you, SA 315, we all have done, है ना, in chapter number 2, in chapter number 4, and in chapter number 3 also. So a reference of SA 315 is in a number of chapters. Quickly tell me, what is the name of SA 315? So I'll wait for 5 seconds, then I'll proceed. So, meanwhile, you will send your answers. So, when the auditor is identifying and assessing the risk of material misstatement, so you have seen in SA 315 that the revenue item, the revenue concept with respect to any organization, there are chances that it may be materially misstated. Hana? So it is a significant risk area, right? So the name is what? Identifying and assessing the risk of material misstatement through understanding the entity and its environment. Okay? So for all those who are writing the correct name, like, so I can see Hemlata has answered the name in entirety. Apart from Hemlata, others are saying Ma'am Romam. Okay? And Yatiraj also. So that's good. And others also, please start learning if you haven't. Okay? So it is the area where there is what? Significant risk. So auditor will have to divert his audit procedures in order to verify the various assertions with respect to sales. And this will start with performing the test of control, that is checking the internal control, because chances are there that the volume of transaction with respect to sales of ABC Limited is high. So it might be possible that checking 100% transaction is not possible for the auditor. So if he has to rely on the internal control, if he has to do certain sample checking with respect to sales transactions, auditor will have to perform what? Test of control. Okay. Now tell me what all internal control. Now just imagine yourself as the management of ABC Limited and consider that you are ABC Limited is a company which is manufacturing chocolates. Okay. So internal control क्या क्या implement करोगे with respect to sales? Sales का जो recording है, what all internal control will you implement? Now try to imagine yourself as the management of ABC Limited. Okay? So tell me what all internal control will you implement, design, implement and maintain with respect to the sales transactions of ABC Limited. So quickly, keep on thinking, keep on sending your replies. तो क्या क्या internal control हैं? देखो ये समझ आता है ना? The auditor will have to check internal control. Hana? If the sales figure, just a minute. So, if the internal control with respect to sales are good, then chances are there that the sales figures that are reflecting the various assertions with respect to sales are correct. Also, the various assertions with respect to trade receivables are also correct. Why? Because trade receivables का figure कहाँ से आता है? आपका credit sales से. ठीक है? ठीक है. Segregation of duty होना चाहिए. Sales invoice should be recorded only once. Dhyanesh and Yatiraj are saying authorized personnel होना चाहिए. Aloki saying. So यही सब internal control है. ठीक है? So first of all, auditor will obtain an adequate understanding about the various revenue segments, है ना? कौन-कौन से product हैं that ABC Limited selling. Let's say chocolates भी sale कर रहे हैं, chips भी sale कर रहे हैं, toffees भी sale कर रहे हैं. So what are the various segments, है ना? Who are the major customers? Whether any new product has been introduced during the year or any existing product has been discontinued during the year, what are the terms, how the sales actually happen. So auditor will obtain an understanding about the sales process. Okay? Now auditor will also understand the various management controls, the internal controls that have been implemented by the management. Example is what? Segregation of duty. Many of you have already answered. Chitala is saying, ma'am, authorization and segregation of duty. So the person who is authorizing the sales order, the person who is raising the sales invoice, the person who is dispatching the goods, the person who is receiving the payment. So there should be what? Multiple persons involved. That is, there should be segregation of duty. So auditor will consider as to whether the management's internal control are adequate or not, right? Apart from this, there can be other internal control, like whether the sales invoices are pre-numbered, whether the transactions are authorized, right? So auditor will consider all those internal controls. And how can auditor do that? See, auditor may on a sample basis select 4 or 5 sales transactions and he may conduct examination in depth, है ना. अब examination in depth क्या होता है, ये तो अब आपको सबको पता होगा, because we have discussed this a number of times. Examination in depth. So what is this? So basically, the auditor is checking the entire audit trail, that is from the very beginning, from where the sale started till the moment the payment is received and sales process is completed. So auditor will check the internal control implemented by the management at each and every stage of the sale transaction. Okay? So he will check what certain sales invoices or certain sales on a random basis, and with respect to that sample he will be checking the internal control, like whether these are pre-numbered or not. All the invoices are pre-numbered, whether invoices only original copies are there, whether these are authorized or not, right, whether segregation of duties there or not. So auditor will consider that. And now tell me, what will happen after auditor concludes about the internal control? So let me just ask you this. So after checking the internal control, auditor will decide the dash of dash to be performed with respect to sales transaction. Quickly, I need answers. So I'll just repeat it. After checking the internal controls with respect to the various sales transaction, auditor will decide the dash of his dash. So quickly tell me. Yes, Alok has answered it very quickly and absolutely correct. The nature, timing, extent of substantive procedures. है ना? एक बारी, when you are sure about the internal controls that have been implemented by the management, then only the auditor will be able to decide the nature, the timing, and extent of his substantive procedures. See, students, we have done this in detail in chapter number 3, that auditor will have to perform the substantive procedure irrespective of how effective the internal control is. Whether to perform the test of details or to perform substantive analytical procedures or a combination of both, it depends upon what? The auditor's professional judgment and the results of his assessment of what? The internal control and assessed risk of material misstatement. Okay? So auditor will check what the internal control. After that, he'll decide the nature, timing, extent of substantive procedures. Okay? Clear? Now, various analytical review procedures that the auditor may perform. Now tell me, what are the various analytical review procedures that the auditor may perform? Okay, so SA 520 in chapter number 8, you all have done this in detail. Analytical review procedures, Hana. So tell me what all, see, this is not alternate procedures. This is what? Analytical review procedures, Hana. Tell me, yes. Chitala is saying, man, trend analysis, absolutely correct. Okay. So auditor may perform trend analysis. Hana. He may compare the total of the sales figure with that of the last year's, Hana. He may compare the percentage of sales return to sales to total sales with respect to the ratios in the last year. Hana? And auditor may also perform reasonableness test. What is reasonableness test? So again, your understanding of chapter number 8, SA 520. So let's say if the selling price is, let's say, ₹10, Hana, of a chocolate, and during the year 20,000 chocolates have been sold. Okay? So auditor, if he finds that the revenue somewhere around 2 lakh, then this is what? Reasonable, fair enough. So this is what? Reasonableness test. Hana? So with respect to the various items of P&L, students, you will see that auditor will perform reasonability test. Hana? Just GST, the amount of GST that has been paid, here also auditor may perform what? Reasonability test. That is, if this is the GST rate, this is the total sales, then the GST amount should be somewhere around this. Hana? So that ways auditor will see whether the amount that is reflecting, whether that measurement is appropriate or not. Okay? Is it clear? So this was all about what? Obtaining a general understanding about the sales process that is happening in the client's organization and the internal control that has been implemented by the clients. Okay? Let us have a look at this from the module, and then we will start with the various procedures assertion wise. Okay? So what we are doing, provisions and contingent liability is left, that I'll be taking up after the break. So with respect to what? Statement of profit and loss. So first is sale of products and services. Okay? So see, the auditor needs to obtain an understanding of the management's control in respect of sales process. And see, here it is mentioned that auditor needs to obtain a clear understanding about the organization and its revenue centers, like the demand for the products, introduction of new products, discontinuance of products, major customers, sales terms kya hai, whether these are being given on credit or cash, right? He needs to obtain an understanding of the internal controls. For example, whether there is segregation of duty or not, right? He will check the internal control with respect in order to see how strong and reliable are they. Why? Because this will decide his extent of substantive testing. And students, if there are any deficiencies in the internal control, auditor will communicate such deficiencies in internal control to those charged with governance and management in terms of SA 265. So what is the name of SA 265? Communicating deficiencies in internal control to those charged with governance and management. So auditor will communicate. So there is a responsibility on the auditor in terms of SA 265 to communicate the deficiencies in the internal control to those charged with governance and management. And why auditor is performing test of control? Because this will decide his extent of substantive testing. Okay? Then it is mentioned that auditor may select a random sample of transactions, and based on that, from the very beginning till the end, auditor will check everything in order to see whether controls are good or not, so that he can decide upon the nature, timing, extent of his audit procedures. Clear? Auditor will perform what? Substantive audit procedures. So substantive testing is must. Substantive analytical procedures. Ab substantive procedures, you all know, can be test of details or your substantive analytical procedures. So this paragraph is talking about what? Substantive analytical procedures. So it will consist of sales trend analysis, your comparison with previous accounting year, category wise analysis, all that analysis. Okay? And this example is about what? Your reasonableness test that you have done in your chapter number 8. Okay? That if the sales price is 10, 50 and 1500 units are sold, then 15,000 should be the expected sales. Okay? Now, and again, in case of any variances, the same can be discussed with the management for the reasons of any variances. Okay, समझ आ रहा है ये सब? ठीक है? Is it clear, students? Kindly send in your replies. So, Dhyanish, see, revenue cycle is basically how the revenue is started till where it is actually received. So, first of all, sales, the products will be given, the goods will be supplied, entries, general entries will be passed, trade receivable account will be automatically generated, payment will be received, there will be deposit slip with respect to such payment. So, this is the revenue cycle. Okay, is it clear, Dhyanish? Okay. Now, with respect to verifying, so Dhyanish, is it clear? Okay. Now, we will be considering various audit procedures assertion wise. Okay. So now with respect to the occurrence assertion, that is, if the sales of rupees 20 lakhs is shown, then we are verifying whether these sales actually exist, whether they relate to the entity. ठीक है? और आई कैन ऑलवेज ऑल्सो से दैट एग्जिस्ट करता है या नहीं, कि 20 lakhs एग्जिस्ट कर रहे हैं नहीं, ऐसे तो नहीं है कि रेवेन्यू इज ओवरस्टेटेड, कि ये एग्जिस्ट ही नहीं करता। एक्चुअल में तो 10 lakhs की सेल थी, रिमेनिंग 10 lakhs तो इन्फ्लेट करने के लिए दिखाया गया व्हाट, द प्रॉफिट्स। ठीक है, सो एग्जिस्ट अकरेंस है ना, सी दिस इज व्हाट अकरेंस है ना, sorry, not existence, occurrence assertion. So whether these sales have actually occurred during the year, ऐसे तो नहीं है that these sales are overstated, है ना, that only 10 lakh sales actually occur during the year, rest of the sales are what, fictitious sales. Why? The management might have the intention to inflate the sales in order to inflate the profits. जितना आपका sales बढ़ेगा, that is going to have an impact on the profit only ना, है ना। तो दिस वी आर गोइंग टू चेक व्हेन वी आर चेकिंग व्हाट, द ऑकरेंस assertion। ठीक है, अब देखो बहुत सिंपल सा है, अगर मैं एक ही इनवॉइस को if I record it twice, obviously that is going to inflate my sales. So first of all, auditor will verify whether invoices are recorded only once. Simple है। अब आप माइंड में क्या रखो, दैट ओवर स्टेटमेंट नहीं होना चाहिए रेवेन्यू का, जिससे कि प्रॉफिट्स इन्फ्लेट होना चाहिए, ऐसा नहीं होना चाहिए। तो दो बारी रिकॉर्डिंग नहीं होना चाहिए ऑफ एन इनवॉइस। कैंसिल्ड इनवॉइस है वो भी रिकॉर्ड नहीं होना चाहिए। सिंपल लॉजिकल है बहुत। ठीक है, कुछ इनवॉइसेस को आई विल चेक द एंट्रीज, सैंपल बेसिस पे लिया, उसका एग्जामिनेशन इन डेप्थ, ऑल जनरल एंट्रीज चेक कर लिया, एंड इन ऑर्डर टू सी वेदर जेन्युइन है, फिक्टिशियस तो नहीं है, तो व्हाट आई कैन डू, जो क्रेडिट सेल्स है आई कैन सेंड माय कंफर्मेशन रिक्वेस्ट लेटर। सिंपल। ठीक है, देन in order to see whether these sales have actually occurred during the year, I may check the sales invoice with the shipment documents. Shipment documents में भी तो लिखा होगा ना कितना quantity सेल हुआ, कब सेल हुआ। ठीक है, clear? Now there may be certain unearned revenue, like if some payment is received in advance, if the sales are made on sales on approval basis, unearned revenue, the revenue that is still not earned. So auditor will verify that unearned revenue should not have been recognized in the books of account, right? There may be substantial uncertainty about collectibility. For example, credit sales are made to, let's say, the debtors who are situated on the coast of Uttarakhand. Now that area has been hit by floods, है ना? So now there is what, substantial uncertainty. ऐसा तो नहीं है that these trade debtors they have become bad. So if there is any substantial uncertainty about collectibility, any of the debtors has declared themselves as bankrupt, तो वो repay नहीं, वो payment नहीं कर सकते हैं. So whether there is substantial uncertainty about collectibility, auditor will consider that. समझ आता है? एक एक पॉइंट्स है, ध्यान से सुनो, यू विल बी एबल टू अंडरस्टैंड। ठीक है, कस्टमर ऑब्लिगेशन कंटिंजेंट ऑन, व्हाट इज दिस पॉइंट, कंटिंजेंट ऑन अदर एक्शंस। ठीक है, फॉर एग्जांपल एबीसी लिमिटेड इज सेलिंग गुड्स टू एमएनओ लिमिटेड एंड द सेल्स टर्म्स, द टर्म्स ऑफ अग्रीमेंट सेल्स दैट the sales will be out of the total amount sold to MNO, the amount that MNO is able to sell, only that will be considered as sale of MNO, rest will be returned to ABC Limited. So now customer obligation, MNO obligation is contingent, dependent upon other actions ना. So auditor will also consider that कि ऐसा तो नहीं है resale के केस में. So this is a case of what, resale. ठीक है, is it clear? Other actions, that is resale. या ऐसे तो नहीं है you are selling something on EMIs, financing basis पे. So auditor will consider that. ठीक है, auditor will see that all the invoices are in sequence, pre-numbered है या नहीं. ठीक है, unusual transactions तो नहीं दिए किसी को, huge discounts, unusual transactions should not have happened during the year. Huge discounts तो नहीं दिए किसी को, है ना. एंड सी इट माइट हैपन दैट, अभी हमारा क्या कॉन्सेप्ट चल रहा है कि सेल ड्यूरिंग द ईयर इतना अकर हुआ है या नहीं 20 lakhs का, कि ओवरस्टेट तो नहीं कर दिया इन ऑर्डर टू इन्फ्लेट द प्रॉफिट्स. सो इट माइट हैपन ना कि 31 मार्च 2022 को, सिंस द सेल्स ऑफिसर हैड टू इंक्रीज द सेल्स बिकॉज प्रॉफिट्स टारगेट मीट करने थे, तो इन्होंने अननेसेसरी 5 lakhs का सेल्स टू रिलेटेड पार्टी दिखा दिया. एंड इन द नेक्स्ट ईयर 10th अप्रैल तक ये सब सेल्स रिटर्न बन गए हैं. तो यहां पर तो जो पर्पस था 31 मार्च को, ये सॉल्व हो गया ना, टू इन्फ्लेट द प्रॉफिट्स. सो दिस शुड नॉट हैपन. सो दैट इज व्हाई ऑडिटर विल सी द रेशियो ऑफ सेल्स रिटर्न टू सेल्स एंड कंपेयर इट विद द प्रीवियस ईयर, एंड इन केस ऑफ एन इंक्रीज एंड डिक्रीज द रीजंस विल बी डिस्कस्ड विद द मैनेजमेंट. समझ आता है ये? ठीक है. एंड सेल्स रिटर्न को इनवॉइस से, चलान से, क्रेडिट नोट से, स्टॉक रजिस्टर से सबसे टैली करेंगे इन ऑर्डर टू सी whether the sales that were recorded before 31st March 2022 in our example, whether they were genuine sales or were they recorded in order to just inflate the sales and thereby to inflate the profits. Simple है, बहुत लॉजिकल है. अक्कर हुआ है या नहीं ये माइंड में रखो. क्या मतलब कि ओवरस्टेट तो नहीं हुआ है, और सिंपल कि ट्वाइस तो रिकॉर्ड नहीं हो गया. लाइक द सेल्स इनवॉइस शुड नॉट बी रिकॉर्डेड मोर देन वंस. कैंसिल्ड इनवॉइस तो नहीं रिकॉर्ड कर दिया है. फिक्टिशियस कस्टमर्स तो नहीं है, कंफर्मेशन ले लो. शिपिंग डॉक्यूमेंट से कंफर्म कर लो, है ना. शिपमेंट विदाउट कंसेंट, है ना. द कस्टमर हैज नॉट गिवन द कंसेंट बट आपने शिप कर दिया है. Why? Because the sales officer is considering कि अभी तो शिपमेंट कर, अभी तो इसको डिस्पैच कर देते हैं, later on we'll consider it as a sales return. अभी तो हमारा प्रॉफिट्स इंक्रीज हो जाएगा ना as on 31st March. ठीक है. Unearned revenue, revenue that is still not earned, your advances that have been received, है ना. और I gave example of sales on approval basis. Substantial uncertainty about collectibility, जो डेटर है वो bankrupt हो गया है ना, या लेट्स से वहां फ्लड्स आ गए हैं. सो सब्सटैंशियल अनसर्टेनिटी है, ऑडिटर विल कंसीडर दैट. कस्टमर ऑब्लिगेशन कंटिंजेंट ऑन अदर एक्शन, रीसेल है, फाइनेंसिंग है, सीक्वेंस ऑफ सेल्स इनवॉइस होना चाहिए, अनयूजुअल ट्रांजैक्शन, केसेस ऑफ व्हाट ह्यूज डिस्काउंट्स गिवन टू पार्टीज, है ना. बाय ऐसे तो नहीं है इन ऑर्डर टू जस्ट इन्फ्लेट, बहुत सस्ते में माल बेचा गया है, huge discounts have been given and later on वो sales return हो गया है. Sales of ratio of sales return to sales, compare it with the previous year sales return को भी आप अच्छे से check कर लोगे. Clear है? So this was with respect to what your occurrence assertion. Simple. Now completeness, that is all sales should have been recorded, है ना. अब देखो completeness के ही पार्ट में हम कंसीडर किसको करते हैं, कट ऑफ. दोनों में डिफरेंस क्या है? देखो कंप्लीटनेस में हम क्या बोलते हैं, दैट ऑल सेल्स दैट वर सपोज टू बी रिकॉर्डेड हैव बीन रिकॉग्नाइज्ड इन द बुक्स ऑफ अकाउंट. ये 20 लाख जो है ना, ये ऑल सेल्स है. ठीक है. ऐसा नहीं है कि कोई भी सेल ऑमिट हो गया. ये क्या होता है, कंप्लीटनेस. कट ऑफ क्या होता है कि ये जो 20 लाख है ना, ये करंट पीरियड को ही बिलोंग करता है. It should not happen that out of this 5 lakh sales is pertaining to the next year, but that has been considered in the current accounting period, है ना. That correct accounting period में है, उसको क्या बोलते हैं, कट ऑफ. कि कट ऑफ डेट में हमने चेक करना है कि जो भी सेल्स बिफोर द कट ऑफ डेट है दैट शुड हैव बीन कंसीडर्ड इन द ईयर अंडर ऑडिट. उसके बाद की कोई सेल्स है तो वो नेक्स्ट ईयर में कंसीडर होगी. समझ आता है? And if you have seen, always we discuss cutoff under the head of completeness. तो इसी का मान लो एक पार्ट ही है ना, because completeness में हम क्या देखते हैं, whether all sales have been considered. और cutoff में एक further step क्या होता है, the sales that have been considered they pertain to the correct accounting period. ठीक है. अब cutoff के लिए क्या होगा, that means correct accounting period. So first of all, that the sales pertain to the correct accounting period and sales have not been tempered at the period end. That period end में sales figure के साथ कोई manipulation नहीं किया गया. ठीक है. मैनिपुलेशन मतलब आपका सेल्स इनवॉइस में 4th अप्रैल की डेट आ रही, 4th अप्रैल की डेट आ रही थी, बट उसको मैनिपुलेट, टेम्परिंग करके उसको 31st मार्च कर दिया गया. ऐसा नहीं होना चाहिए. ठीक है. कट ऑफ, दैट इज दे पर्टेन टू द करंट अकाउंटिंग पीरियड. ठीक है. जो रेवेन्यू रिकॉग्नाइज होता है, टेल मी द अकाउंटिंग स्टैंडर्ड विद रिस्पेक्ट टू द सेल्स, द रेवेन्यू रिकॉग्निशन ऑफ सेल्स. We will invest more time in sales as compared to purchases. Why? Because you will see that purchases का भी almost same lines पे चलेगा. ठीक है? So tell me the relevant accounting standard. Quickly, students, I'm waiting for your replies. Ayushi, I hope the term other actions is clear to you. So AS9, है ना? So the revenue that has been recognized, it should be based on the fact that it should be the sale should be recognized only when the risk and reward in the goods have been transferred. Okay? And not based on the date of the invoice, but when the risk and reward have been transferred to the other party. Okay? Verify the credit notes. If you remember in the last session, we have discussed credit memos. है ना? सो क्रेडिट नोट्स क्या है? वेयर बाय सी पहले आपका सेल्स इनवॉइस इशू किया आपने पार्टी को कि आपको मुझे 10,000 रुपीज देने हैं. नेक्स्ट 10,000 यू हैव टू पे ऑन अकाउंट ऑफ द सेल. ये आपने कब दिया? 31 मार्च से लेट से पहले. ठीक है? बट 5 अप्रैल को यू आर गिविंग अ क्रेडिट मेमो कि आपने ना अब मुझे 4,000 रुपीज कम देने हैं. ठीक है? सो सिर्फ 6,000 देना है. सो देखा जाए इफ द मैनेजमेंट हैज द इंटेंशन टू मैनिपुलेट द सेल्स, ये क्या है कि एक्चुअल में तो 6,000 के ही सेल्स थे, है ना? बट इन ऑर्डर टू इन्फ्लेट 10,000 का इनवॉइस रेज कर दिया गया एंड लेटर ऑन 4,000 डिडक्ट कर दिए गए कि नाउ यू हैव टू पे ओनली व्हाट 6,000, है ना? सो वेरीफाई द क्रेडिट नोट्स इशूड आफ्टर द अकाउंटिंग पीरियड इन ऑर्डर टू वेरीफाई द फिक्टिशियस क्या होता है? फेक sales at the year end in order to inflate the profits. Shipping documents and sales journal को check करो. Quantity जितना sales का है उसको sales register से to goods dispatch से जो भी information is getting appeared in the stock records, in the financial records और the statutory records. देखो stock records is inventory records. जब आपका sale हुआ है तो inventory register में entry आया होगा ना कि इतना sale हो गया है, तो consider कि वो कौन से period में stock गया है, which in like during on which date the stock has been dispatched. ठीक है? फाइनेंशियल रिकॉर्ड्स क्लोजिंग स्टॉक आपका कितना आ रहा है. ठीक है? स्टैट्यूटरी रिकॉर्ड्स योर जीएसटी रिटर्न्स सबसे कंपेयर करो. ठीक है? एंड इन केस the sales that are getting reflected in the GST return, tally them with the revenue that is reported in the P&L. In case of any variances, the auditor will discuss the same with the management. Also calculate what reasonability, है ना? कि reverse calculation करो कि इतना sales है, let's say the GST that has been paid is so and so amount. Now you know the rate. Then by calculating, by performing the reverse calculation, you can arrive at the sales figure. So consider whether that amount that is coming, whether that is reasonable or not, that is fair enough or not, that is comparing, that is matching with the amount that is appearing in the P&L. And in case of any variances, discuss the same with the management. Clear? Simple है ना? No difference का नहीं है. These are same. हाँ तो प्रणव, you can use this in both of the assertions. ठीक है? सो डोंट गेट कंफ्यूज, दोनों में यूज होगा. ठीक है? अगर आप लास्ट 5 डेज की ट्रांजैक्शन चेक करते हो, वैसे तो बेस्ड ऑन द ऑपरेटिंग साइकिल यू डिसाइड कि कितना डेज का ट्रांजैक्शन चेक करना है. सो इफ लास्ट 5 डेज के इनवॉइसेस चेक होते हैं, सो देयर यू विल बी एबल टू सी ना दैट दीज लास्ट 5 डेज वेदर दीज इनवॉइसेस हैव बीन कंसीडर्ड इन द टोटल सेल्स फिगर. तो ऑल वेदर कंप्लीटनेस भी उससे चेक होता है एंड वेदर दे बिलोंग टू दिस अकाउंटिंग पीरियड वो भी चेक होता है, तो कट ऑफ भी चेक होता है आपका. ठीक है? हुज आउट वाज इट? प्रणव. ठीक है? इज इट क्लियर? सो दिस वाज ऑल अबाउट योर कंप्लीटनेस. नाउ मेजरमेंट, है ना? सो मेजरमेंट का क्या, इफ यू रिमेंबर वी हैव डिस्कस्ड इट, है ना, कि एग्जामिनेशन इन डेप्थ करो. एग्जामिनेशन इन डेप्थ क्या? फ्रॉम द वेरी बिगिनिंग till the end, जहां जहां पे भी calculations है ना, check whether that measurement is properly or not. ईच एंड एवरी अंडरलाइन डॉक्यूमेंट को चेक करो. अग्रीमेंट में लिखा होगा ना कितना डिस्काउंट दिया है. अग्रीमेंट में टर्म्स लिखे होंगे ना कि आपको कब कब पे करना है. अग्रीमेंट में एवरीथिंग वुड हैव बीन मेंशन ना. वेदर दैट इज रिकॉर्डेड एट एवरी स्टेज और नॉट, मेजर्ड एक्यूरेटली हुआ है नहीं, इंसेंटिव डिस्काउंट्स को कंसीडर प्रॉपर्ली किया है नहीं, अकॉर्डिंग टू द रेवेन्यू रिकॉग्निशन पॉलिसी ऑफ द कंपनी किया है या नहीं. ठीक है. अब देखो मेजरमेंट में ना क्विकली जो हमने अभी तक assertions में किया है, दो इट इज रिलेटेड टू योर बैलेंस शीट कैप्शंस. बताओ और क्या देखोगे. देयर आर 2 अकाउंटिंग स्टैंडर्ड्स. देखो इस मेजरमेंट को ना बहुत इजीली यू कैन लर्न दैट AS9 रेवेन्यू रिकॉग्निशन पॉलिसी अकॉर्डिंग हुआ है नहीं. एग्जामिनेशन इन डेप्थ करेंगे, अंडरलाइन डॉक्यूमेंट्स वगैरह सब चेक करेंगे. देयर आर 2 मोर एसेस. प्लीज टेल मी. बहुत सिंपल है. अब तो हमने बहुत बड़ी इसको कर लिया है. नंबर ऑफ टाइम्स वी हैव डन इट. प्लीज डू नॉट लुक एट द मॉड्यूल. है ना. थोड़ा सा सोचो. वैल्यूएशन में क्या चेक करते थे आप. There were 2 points which are common with respect to various items of financial statement. Yes, AS11 Alok is saying effects of changes in foreign exchange rates. ठीक है. सो अगर आपके एक्सपोर्ट सेल्स हैं तो वो भी तो देखना है ना कि इंडियन करेंसी में अगर रीस्टेट किया है तो वेदर दैट इज डन एज पर AS11 और नॉट. गिव मी अनदर अकाउंटिंग स्टैंडर्ड. Quickly, I'm waiting for your replies. Where you used to see कि reasonable है या नहीं, authorized है या नहीं, and arm's length price पे है या नहीं. क्योंकि वो भी तो मेजरमेंट में आ गया ना. किसी को आपने सेल्स एट अ वेरी लेस प्राइस किया है, डिस्काउंट ह्यूज डिस्काउंट्स दिए हैं. सो AS18 है ना. सॉरी हाँ रिलेटेड पार्टी. ठीक है. AS18. ठीक है. क्लियर. सो लेट मी जस्ट take you through the module with respect to this point. Measurement है ना. So AS11 and AS18 with respect to related parties. Correct. ठीक है. So let us just have a look at this from the module, various assertions, and then only the disclosure part is left, which we will be doing from the module. Now with respect to occurrence assertion, so auditor will see that, so for all those who are highlighting in the module and those who ask me ma'am as to how to mark, how to highlight, so single sales invoice should not be recorded twice and cancelled sales invoice should not be recorded. Check few invoices with respect to their entries in sales journal. Confirmation लेना है with respect to genuineness. Now these points are related so that you can see whether fictitious क्या होता है. fake customers तो नहीं है. शिपमेंट्स को चेक कर लो है ना. ईयर एंड में कि टू इन्फ्लेट द सेल्स फिगर तो नहीं किया है. अनअर्न्ड रेवेन्यू तो नहीं है. unsubstantial uncertainty about collectability नहीं है. customer obligations on which are contingent on other actions. Ayushi you were mentioning ना other actions क्या हैं. तो financing and resale. Sequence देख लो. general entries with respect to unusual transaction देख लो. ratio of sales return to sales and compare it with the previous year. Ask for any reasons for increase and decrease. And sales return को क्या you can compare with sales invoice, challans, credit note, stock register. With respect to completeness and cutoff, so perform the cutoff procedure that is recognizing current accounting period. Sales are not tempered. Tempered is what? Manipulated है ना. So see, cutoff errors. Cutoff errors will usually arise when the company recognizes revenue based on date on which sales invoice are generated rather than the date when the risk and rewards are transferred. तो आपको MCQ true false easily आ सकता है ना. That when should the sales be recognized? ठीक है. It should be as per the date of invoice or it should be as per what? When the risk and reward is transferred. है ना. In order to perform a robust is strong sales cutoffs. Robust is what? Strong. है ना. Auditor need to understand and consider the specific cutoff error risk of each engagement. That management का क्या cutoff procedure है ना. Revenue recognition policy क्या है. Credit notes issued after the accounting period, है ना. Sometimes sales team, sale personnel makes fictitious sales before the year end to meet the performance target and cancel out those sales with post year end credit notes. Trace the shipping documents. क्वांटिटी से आप कैसे चेक कर सकते हो, जितने भी रिकॉर्ड्स हैं, है ना, उनके साथ कंपेयर करो. दैट इज स्टॉक रिकॉर्ड्स, फाइनेंशियल रिकॉर्ड्स, स्टैट्यूटरी रिकॉर्ड्स. ठीक है. जीएसटी टैक्स एंड योर रिटर्न्स को वेरीफाई करो, रीजनेबिलिटी को देखो, एंड इन केस ऑफ एनी वेरिएंसेस डिस्कस विद मैनेजमेंट. क्लियर. Measurement. Trace few transactions from inception is from the very start till completion, that is examination in depth. Example, take few sales transaction, check from receipt of sales order and every underlying. अब तो underlying समझ आने लग गया हो ना कि जो भी documents which form the foundation of that transaction, basis जो है ना, recorded at every stage, है ना, whether measured accurately or not, and the recognition shall be as per the revenue recognition policy. So basically this is what AS9, this is what AS11, है ना, this is also talking about AS9. Auditor must understand client's operation related gap, है ना, तो sales revenue recognition, and this is about AS18. Compare the sales affected with related party, collectability के लिए authorized है नहीं, reasonable है नहीं, arm's length पे है नहीं. So these are almost the same. Now the disclosure requirement, and please do it as 2. Ensure whether the following disclosures as required under Schedule 3, Part 2 to the Companies Act have been made. ठीक है. So, very simple. Whether disclosure of sales in respect of each class of goods have been made. है ना? If the company is selling different products, chocolates, toffees, chips, है ना, तो each class of goods have been made. Revenue from operations is disclosed separately in the notes as revenue arising from sale of products, sale of services, and other operating revenues. ठीक है. When brokerage and discount on sales, whether brokerage and discount on sales other than usual trade discount have been disclosed. देखो जो आपका trade discount होता है, this तो you deduct from the list price only ना, sales figure जो आता है इसको deduct करके ही आता है ना, but brokerage और आपका जो discount, other discounts on sales है, that are disclosed separately. So auditor will see whether that has been done or not. Whether transactions with related party are appropriately disclosed in the notes to accounts. Simple, है ना. जो आपका brokerage होता है, that is target based, and discount may be given, let's say for poor quality of goods, है ना, तो वो तो आपको शो करना पड़ेगा. लेकिन ट्रेड डिस्काउंट तो आप डिडक्ट कहाँ से करते हो, लिस्ट प्राइस में से, तो सेल्स फिगर तो उसको डिडक्ट करके ही आता है. सो अदर देन दैट ब्रोकरेज और एनी अदर काइंड ऑफ डिस्काउंट शुड बी डिस्क्लोज्ड सेपरेटली. So this was about the first P&L item, which is what? Sales. I hope all the assertions are clear. हाँ, तो प्रियंका, how does it matter ना? प्रियंका is saying कि मैम अगर सेल्स रिटर्न नेक्स्ट ईयर में दिखाएंगे तो दैट विल गोइंग टू हैव एन इम्पैक्ट ऑन द प्रॉफिट्स ऑफ नेक्स्ट ईयर. सो देखो 31 मार्च 2022 को इन्फ्लेट करना था सेल्स in order to inflate the profits. तो ये वाला टारगेट तो मीट हो गया ना. नेक्स्ट ईयर आपने उसी को सेल्स रिटर्न दिखा दिया. अब नेक्स्ट ईयर 31 मार्च 2023 को भी हो सकता है द मैनेजमेंट इज डूइंग द सेम. ठीक है. इज इट क्लियर प्रियंका? क्विकली सेंड इन योर रिप्लाईज. ठीक है. नाउ विल स्टार्ट विद द अदर income statement caption, that is what? Other income. So other income, and specifically 3 items are discussed, which is what? Interest income, dividend income, gain on sale of investment. So basically we are talking about income to gain hai, but loss ka bhi to procedure will be same only. So gain or loss on sale of investments. ठीक है. ठीक है. Now tell me, अच्छा disclosure we have seen. टेल मी interest income, let's say interest income with respect to the funds parked in FDs, है ना? टेल मी क्या डॉक्यूमेंट माइंड में आते हैं? अब तो आपको पता चलना चाहिए. You should be able to answer on your own. What all you are going to check? I'm waiting for your replies. So देखो, auditor can check what? The FDs, है ना? Original FDs हैं. So these are, yes, fixed deposits, PAN passbook, ठीक है, ठीक है. एंड स्टूडेंट्स, कितना इजी पॉइंट है ना. देखो, इंटरेस्ट इनकम कैसे कैलकुलेट होता है? बेस्ड ऑन व्हाट इज द अमाउंट ऑफ एफडी आउटस्टैंडिंग मल्टीप्लाइड बाय द रेट मल्टीप्लाइड बाय द टाइम ऑफ पीरियड. लेट्स से आपने इसको दिसंबर में 1 दिसंबर को लिया है, तो 4 मंथ्स का इंटरेस्ट मिलेगा ना. ठीक है. सो ऑडिटर विल सी वेदर द कैलकुलेशन इज करेक्ट और नॉट, है ना? यही सारी चीजें आएंगी. ठीक है. डिविडेंड इनकम में बताओ क्या क्या कंसीडर करोगे? डिविडेंड इनकम, डिविडेंड इनकम. क्विकली सेंड इन योर रिप्लाईज. So whether the dividend income is booked only when the right to receive it is established, है ना? When the inflow is what? Probable, है ना? पढ़ा हुआ है ना ये सब आपने. And the amount can be measured reliably. यही होता है. बस auditor will check that only. With respect to sale on investments, the gain on sale of investments, ठीक है. So with respect to this, auditor will consider the statement. Let's say some investments in the form of mutual funds are there, तो statement of mutual fund में देख लेंगे ना. And gain कैसे calculate होएगा? The redemption value less the carrying value of that investment. Redemption is कितने पे आपने बेचा उस investment को, carrying value is जितने amount में आपके financial statements में आ रही थी. So whether that calculation is correct or not. Simple है. कुछ प्रोसीजर्स हैं कि लिस्ट ऑब्टेन कर लेंगे सारी एफडीज की, कैलकुलेशन देख लेंगे, कंफर्मेशन देख लेंगे. सिंपल है ना, बहुत, है ना? तो क्विकली इसको देखते हैं. आई एम श्योर दिस इज गोइंग टू बी वेरी इजी फॉर यू. यू विल फाइंड इट वेरी इजी. देखो, इंटरेस्ट इनकम ऑन एफडीज को कैसे रिकॉग्नाइज करते हैं? ऑन टाइम प्रोपोर्शन बेसिस. अगर 4 मंथ्स के लिए तो 4 मंथ्स का इंटरेस्ट मिलेगा ना. एंड कितना अमाउंट आउटस्टैंडिंग है एंड दी एप्लीकेबल इंटरेस्ट रेट. डिविडेंड्स को कब रिकॉग्नाइज करते हो? ओनली व्हेन entity's right to receive dividend is established. Probable है economic benefits, probable, the possibility that the benefit will accrue, the benefit will be there, it is more likely than not, that is more than 50%. And so it is connected with, and the amount can be measured reliably. तो अगर ये तीनों conditions है तो dividend should be recognized in the books, otherwise it should not be recognized. ठीक है. gain on sale of investment का क्या है? It should be recorded ऑन ट्रांसफर ऑफ टाइटल फ्रॉम एंटिटी. जब एंटिटी के नेम से इन्वेस्टमेंट ट्रांसफर हो जाए. एंड हाउ विल इट बी कैलकुलेटेड? रिडेम्पशन प्राइस माइनस द कैरिंग वैल्यू ऑफ इन्वेस्टमेंट. बहुत सिंपल है, इसमें वी हैवंट डन एनीथिंग न्यू. ठीक है. नाउ विद रिस्पेक्ट टू द वेरियस असर्शंस लाइक योर अकरेंस, कंप्लीटनेस, मेजरमेंट. सो इंटरेस्ट ऑन एफडीज को कैसे चेक करोगे? ऑब्टेन अ लिस्ट. ठीक है. नाउ स्टूडेंट्स, ये जो है ना आपका ऑब्टेन अ लिस्ट, एप्लीकेबल इंटरेस्ट रेट देखना है. ठीक है. मतलब ये ऑब्टेन अ लिस्ट, तो आप देखना कि कोई भी आपका पीएनएल आइटम है ना, जैसे आपका आता है एम्प्लॉय बेनिफिट एक्सपेंस, तो आप पूरा लिस्ट ले लोगे ना, कितने कितने एम्प्लॉयज हैं, है ना? आपका ट्रैवलिंग एक्सपेंस है, आप एक लिस्ट ले लोगे ना. तो दिस इज अ वेरी कॉमन पॉइंट, है ना? तो इवन इफ एनी असर्शन दैट हम नहीं डिस्कस करेंगे, तो ऑब्टेन अ लिस्ट, है ना? रेस्ट इट विल डिपेंड अपॉन द आइटम दैट has been given in the question. So obtain a list of the FDs that have been opened during the year. Applicable interest rate क्या है, number of days कितना है during which the FD is outstanding. Arithmetically accuracy check कर लोगे अगर कोई formula है तो. FD is outstanding at the period end है तो confirmation ले लो आप. Confirmation सिर्फ amount की नहीं, आप interest की भी ले सकते हो. Calculation देखो entity की. And on the interest, as you all know that TDS is deducted, है ना? Then obtain, consider it from where? Form 26 AS, है ना? So वहां से आप एक information ले सकते हो as to form 26 AS में भी तो आता है ना that the bank has deducted इतना TDS on income, interest income of इतना amount, तो consider, check it from 26 form 26 AS of the company. ठीक है? हाँ, डिविडेंड अभी हम डिस्कस करेंगे प्रणव. हाँ, टीडीएस सर्टिफिकेट देख लो. ठीक है, क्लियर, सिंपल है ना. नाउ डिविडेंड्स. सो डिविडेंड्स में लेट मी जस्ट टेक यू थ्रू द मॉड्यूल इटसेल्फ. डिविडेंड्स में बस इतना ही गिवन है दैट dividends are recognized in the statement of profit and loss only when. So अगर कंपनी ने कहीं शेयर्स में कहीं इन्वेस्ट किया हुआ है जिसके ऊपर डिविडेंड रिसीव होना है कंपनी को, so company will consider it as income. It will recognize it in the statement of profit and loss only when the entity's right to receive payment of dividend is established. अच्छा, ये कब एस्टैब्लिश होता है? When the other company, है ना, let's say shares of A Limited है and your client is B Limited. So when A Limited has either proposed or declared the dividend and the name of B Limited is coming in the register of members जिसको dividend आना है, then only it will be considered that the right to receive the payment of dividend is established. It is probable, मतलब more than 50% chances हैं that economic benefits are associated with the dividend will flow to the entity. कि dividend आएगा, more than 50% chances हैं, and connected by and the amount can be measured reliably, है ना. अगर ये तीनों conditions are satisfied, then dividend आप क्या करोगे? Recognize as income in the books of accounts. Gain on sale of investment in the mutual funds. अच्छा, अभी तो डिविडेंड वाला ही पॉइंट किया था ना हमने, तो दिस मच इज गिवन विद रिस्पेक्ट टू डिविडेंड. नाउ विद रिस्पेक्ट टू गेन, सो लेट मी जस्ट टेक यू थ्रू द मॉड्यूल फॉर गेन आल्सो. So verify that gain or loss on sale of investment in mutual fund is recorded as other income only on transfer of title from the entity. Just a minute. And is determined as the difference between redemption price and carrying value, है ना. Redemption is क्या? Sale price. And carrying is what? The amount that is appearing in the financial statement. For this purpose, obtain the mutual fund statement and trace the gain or loss recorded in the books to the gain that is reflected in the statement. And you can also add in case of any variance as management. वैसे तो वेरिएंस शुड नॉट हैपन हियर ना, बिकॉज म्यूचुअल फंड स्टेटमेंट में भी गेन और लॉस लिखा होगा और आपका वो ही दैट अमाउंट ओनली शुड appear in the financial statements. Now with respect to disclosure, so again consider it as part 2. So ensure whether the following disclosures required under schedule 3 part 2 to the Companies Act have been made. What are those? Whether other income has been classified as interest income, dividend income, this is net gain loss on sale of investment, other non-operating income, net of expenses directly attributable to such income. Simple है ना. So here we have covered what? Interest income, dividend income, gain or loss on sale of investment. So basically income side पे what all we have discussed, एक तो sales को we have discussed in detail, then interest income, dividend income, loss on sale of investment, gain on sale of investments. So majorly components of income side we have covered. In case you get any item of the P&L which is not covered in these 4 items, then I'm sure you will be able to answer it, है ना. अब तो आपको समझ आ गया होगा. प्रणव, I hope it is clear now. ठीक है. So I'm sure you will be able to answer it. ठीक है. Now there is one disclosure requirement with respect to undisclosed income. है ना. So with respect to the recent amendments in Schedule 3, there has been an additional disclosure which needs to be given by the company, which is what? Undisclosed income. So basically the companies are now required to disclose their undisclosed income by themselves. So what is this? See, if the company has not disclosed any part of its income, but in the income tax assessments or search or survey, such income is disclosed by the company, है ना. पहले ड्यूरिंग द अकाउंटिंग पीरियड बुक्स में वो कंसीडर किया ही नहीं था इनकम, है ना, कंसील कर लिया था मैनेजमेंट ने वो इनकम. बट ड्यूरिंग द इनकम टैक्स असेसमेंट्स और योर सर्च और सर्वे वो इनकम मैनेजमेंट ने खुद डिस्क्लोज कर दी टू द इनकम टैक्स डिपार्टमेंट. ठीक है. Now this clause requires that if there is any such income which has been surrendered or disclosed as income during any income tax assessment, then the company is required to disclose such undisclosed income जो आपने पहले डिस्क्लोज नहीं किया था, एंड द कंपनी इज गोइंग टू मेंशन एज टू वेदर सच इनकम और वेदर सच एसेट्स दैट वर नॉट रिकॉर्डेड अर्लियर, वेदर नाउ दे हैव बीन प्रॉपर्ली रिकॉर्डेड इन द बुक्स ऑफ अकाउंट ड्यूरिंग द ईयर, है ना. तो बेसिकली क्या है कि अगर पहले मैनेजमेंट ने कोई इनकम कंसील कर लिया था इन ऑर्डर टू अवॉइड प्रॉफिट्स, है ना, लेकिन जब इनकम टैक्स असेसमेंट हुआ वहां पर दैट इनकम वाज सरेंडर्ड और डिस्क्लोज्ड. तो अगर ऐसा कुछ होता है ड्यूरिंग द ईयर तो द कंपनी बाय इटसेल्फ विल मेंशन इन द नोट्स टू अकाउंट्स दैट ड्यूरिंग द ईयर ना हमने ये वाला इनकम जो पहले हमने खुद कंसील किया था ना अब हम उसको डिस्क्लोज कर रहे हैं, एंड दैट हैज बीन प्रॉपर्ली रिकॉर्डेड इन द बुक्स ऑफ अकाउंट्स ड्यूरिंग द ईयर. देखो अब इसका क्या फायदा है. सी, अगर ऐसा कोई डिस्क्लोजर आता है बुक्स में जिसकी रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी आप कंपनी को ही दे दिया कि भाई आप खुद ही लिखो, है ना, दिस इज गोइंग टू हैव एन इम्पैक्ट ऑन द गुडविल ऑफ द कंपनी ना, दैट दे आर व्हाट, दे आर कंसीलिंग द इनकम, है ना, दे आर नॉट पेइंग द एक्यूरेट टैक्सेस, करेक्ट टैक्सेस, टैक्स की चोरी की है आपने इनकम कंसील करके. ठीक है, मैनेजमेंट को खुद से बताना कि हाँ भाई हमने ऐसा किया था और अब हमने प्रॉपरली रिकॉर्ड कर लिया है इन द बुक्स ऑफ अकाउंट. ठीक है. नाउ देयर इज वन लाइन व्हिच सेज दैट this is not required unless there is immunity for disclosure. So there are certain voluntary disclosure scheme. If you have heard that income tax department का बहुत बड़ी voluntary disclosure scheme आता है कि you may कि अगर आपने पहले कोई इनकम कंसील किया है तो now you may voluntarily disclose it. We will not impose penalty. तो अगर ऐसा कोई स्कीम है एंड वहां पे आपने वॉलंटरी डिस्क्लोजर किया है, इनकम टैक्स असेसमेंट में नहीं पकड़ी गई है वो इनकम, आपने खुद से वॉलंटरी डिस्क्लोजर स्कीम में डिस्क्लोज किया है, तो वहां पर आपको नोट्स टू अकाउंट्स में ये मेंशन करने की रिक्वायरमेंट नहीं है. ठीक है. लेट अस रीड दिस, देन इट इज गोइंग टू बी क्लियर टू यू. द कंपनी शैल, से देखो शैल है, ये शैल तो मैंडेटरी हो जाता है ना, गिव डिटेल्स ऑफ एनी ट्रांजैक्शन नॉट रिकॉर्डेड इन द बुक्स ऑफ अकाउंट्स, जो पहले आपने रिकॉर्ड नहीं किया था, that has been surrendered or disclosed as income during the income tax assessments under the Income Tax Act 1961 जैसे search, survey or the other relevant provisions of Income Tax Act, unless there is immunity for disclosure under any scheme, है ना. मतलब अनलेस आपने खुद से ही इनकम टैक्स असेसमेंट से पहले ही जब इनकम टैक्स डिपार्टमेंट का ऐसा कोई स्कीम आया कि आप वॉलंटरी डिस्क्लोज कर दो, हम आपके ऊपर पेनल्टी नहीं लगाएंगे, है ना. तो मैनेजमेंट को ऐसा लगे ना कि पेनल्टी देने से अच्छा सिर्फ हम टैक्स पे करके अपनी इनकम दिखा देते हैं, तो वहां पर सच डिस्क्लोजर इज नॉट रिक्वायर्ड. एंड ऑल्सो स्टेट वेदर द प्रीवियसली अनरिकॉर्डेड इनकम, जो पहले रिकॉर्ड नहीं की थी या जो एसेट्स आपने पहले डिस्क्लोज नहीं किए थे, वेदर दीज हैव बीन प्रॉपरली रिकॉर्डेड इन द बुक्स ऑफ अकाउंट्स ड्यूरिंग द ईयर. तो देखो कंपनी अब क्या बोलेगी, देखो पहले हमने टैक्स की चोरी की थी, अब हम उसको कंसीडर कर रहे हैं, है ना. सो अ लॉट ऑफ प्रेशर ऑन द मैनेजमेंट ना. And now the shareholders are going to take what informed decision. पता चल रहा है ना एक्चुअली कंपनी में हो क्या रहा है. ठीक है. Is it clear? Yes, Chitala, applicable to all kind of dividends. Yes, it is applicable to all kind of dividends, Chitala. हाँ तो प्रणव, तभी तो इसमें लिखा है ना सर्च और सर्वे जो होता है ये वॉलंटरी थोड़ी ना होता है, ये तो इनकम टैक्स डिपार्टमेंट ही करता है ना। टैक्स असेसमेंट उन्होंने किया, वहां पर कोई कंसील्ड इनकम आपकी निकल के आती है तो मैनेजमेंट फिर खुद से बताएगा कि हमारा ऐसा असेसमेंट हुआ था या सर्च और सर्वे हुआ था जहां पर ये वाला सारा इनकम वॉज सरेंडर्ड, है ना। ठीक है, क्लियर? इज इट क्लियर स्टूडेंट्स? सिंपल है ना? ठीक है। सो नाउ विल स्टार्ट विद व्हाट, परचेजेस। कोई डाउट है तो प्लीज बताओ। अनडिस्क्लोज इनकम भी हो गया हमारा। ठीक है। यू मे गेट अ 3 mark क्वेश्चन दैट व्हाट आर द डिस्क्लोजर रिक्वायरमेंट्स विद रिस्पेक्ट टू अनडिस्क्लोज्ड इनकम ऑफ द कंपनी विच हैज बीन सरेंडर्ड इन द सर्च, और you are the one of the audit team members. During the course of audit, you were going through the income tax assessment orders, whereby you found that certain income has been surrendered during that search or survey, है ना? So what are the disclosure requirements or that auditor needs to consider with respect to such income? ठीक है, इज इट क्लियर? नाउ परचेजेस। तो देखो परचेजेस में ये तो वी आर गोइंग टू चेक व्हाट, इंटरनल कंट्रोल। तो एग्जैक्टली सेम आएगा। ठीक है। सो लेट मी जस्ट टेक यू थ्रू द मॉड्यूल ओनली, है ना, क्या क्या इंटरनल कंट्रोल चेक करना है। तो देखो purchases is another significant process of the entity similar to sales as discussed above. Purchases and disbursement cycle in a business refers to, see देखो purchases कब start होते हैं, कब purchase and disbursement cycle, वहां क्या था, revenue cycle। अब यहाँ क्या, purchase and disbursement। disbursement क्या होता है, किसी को पे कर रहे हो आप। ठीक है। so when the purchase order is placed, ठीक है, it will start at that moment and end कब होएगा, when the payment is made and the goods are received, when the payment is made and the goods are received। ठीक है। so auditor will obtain an understanding about the purchase and disbursement cycle, about the internal control। अब internal control क्या होंगे, यही सब होंगे कि segregation of duty है या नहीं, है ना। internal control few transactions का in detail check कर लो, random sample को देख लो, why, in order to see कि कितना substantive checking करना है। ठीक है। from the very beginning कि सब जब purchase order आपने create किया till the time when goods are received एंड द पेमेंट इज मेड, है ना, वहां तक आप सारी ट्रांजैक्शन चेक कर लो। सब्सटेंटिव प्रोसीजर्स तो करने ही हैं, सब्सटेंटिव टेस्टिंग इज मस्ट, बट सब्सटेंटिव एनालिटिकल प्रोसीजर्स कैसे हो सकते हैं, आप परचेज देख लो ना, लास्ट ईयर से कितना किया है, कंपेयर द रीजनेबिलिटी कि अगर 10 रुपए का कोई आइटम है, 15,000 यूनिट्स परचेज किए हैं तो इतना अमाउंट शुड बी रीजनेबल। सिंपल है, एग्जैक्टली सेम है। देर आर 2-3 डिफरेंसेस विच वी विल डिस्कस। ठीक है। So auditor needs to obtain clear understanding about the organization, the production centers, type of services products they procure that is used in production, domestic raw material आप domestically purchase करते हो या overseas करते हो, general availability easily मिल जाता है आपका raw material, terms conditions क्या है, credit period मिलता है नहीं, major vendors कौन है, quality check होते हैं नहीं, purchase term क्या है, credit पे लेते हो cash पे लेते हो, है ना। auditor will check that। Auditor needs to identify the control points, है ना। So whether segregation of duty है नहीं, कॉम्पिटेटिव कोर्ट्स आर इनवाइटेड, है ना। अगर आप किसी से परचेज कर रहे हो, ऐसा तो नहीं है सीधा रिलेटेड पार्टी से महंगे में खरीद रहे हो, कॉम्पिटेटिव कोर्ट्स, है ना। इफ यू रिमेम्बर जब हमने पीपीई परचेज किया था तब भी तो हम कॉम्पिटेटिव कोटेशंस मंगाते थे ना, या जब पीपीई सेल भी करते थे तब भी। वेदर परचेज कमिटी इज देयर, है ना, हु ऑथराइजेज द परचेज प्राइस। ठीक है, कोई परचेज कमिटी भी है क्या। देन हु ऑथराइजेज द परचेज ऑर्डर्स, व्हेन एंड हाउ गुड्स आर रिसीव्ड, एक्नॉलेज्ड। जब गुड्स एंटर करते हैं फैक्ट्री गेट पे तो क्या कहीं पे एंट्री होती है क्या। हु चेक्स द क्वालिटी, क्वांटिटी एंड स्पेसिफिकेशन ऑफ द गुड्स रिसीव्ड। ऐसे थोड़ा ना कि कुछ भी स्टॉक आ गया अंदर फैक्ट्री में एंड देर इज नो क्वालिटी क्वांटिटी चेक, है ना। Who prepares goods received note, good received note मतलब when goods are received in the factory तो कोई नोट प्रिपेयर करके साइन करता होगा ना कि हाँ भाई इतना सामान आया है, Who prepares it? Who approves the vendor invoice? Vendor invoice जब वहां से आया है तो the price should have been mentioned. तो when with respect to the copy, buyer's copy of that vendor invoice, who is approving that? Whether a two-way, three-way match process exists or not. What is this? We will discuss how the purchases have been recognized. तो basically क्या है, internal control पूरा check कर लिया हमने, ठीक है. अब टू वे थ्री वे मैच क्या होता है देखो. जैसे पहले क्या होगा, परचेज ऑर्डर होगा, ठीक है. देन आई टोल्ड यू गुड्स रिसीव्ड नोट होगा. गुड्स रिसीव नोट, एक नोट बनेगा by the person who is receiving the goods, that goods, इतना goods have been received at so and so time, and he'll be signing, है ना. तो when the auditor is checking, he is matching two notes, two documents, कि परचेज ऑर्डर को चेक कर लिया एंड गुड्स रिसीव नोट को मैच कर लिया ना, क्वांटिटीज को, तो उसको क्या बोलते हैं, टू वे मैच, ठीक है. वहीं जब ऑडिटर इसको थर्ड डॉक्यूमेंट से भी चेक करे, लेट्स से द इनवॉइस कॉपी से भी चेक कर रहा है, सो दिस इज व्हाट 1, 2 एंड 3 वे मैच, ठीक है, सिंपल. सो 3 वे मैच का एग्जांपल दिया हुआ है, टैली between purchase order, goods received note and vendor invoice. So basically vendor invoice is what, buyer's copy of vendor invoice ना. So two way match, दो documents को आप match कर रहे हो, या 3 way match, simple है, clear, ठीक है. An auditor does the control that the entity has set up. क्यों? Because substantive testing देखना है, एग्जाम्पल प्री नंबर्ड परचेज ऑर्डर है नहीं, परचेज ऑर्डर ऑथराइजेशन है नहीं, मैचिंग हो रही है नहीं, तो सैंपल बेसिस पे आप चेक कर लो, ठीक है. रैंडम सैंपल लिया, एग्जामिनेशन इन डेप्थ किया, सब्सटैंटिव प्रोसीजर्स तो करने ही है. सब्सटैंटिव एनालिटिकल प्रोसीजर्स कैसे हो सकते हैं, ट्रेंड एनालिसिस हो सकता है, कंपैरिजन विद प्रीवियस ईयर हो सकता है, कैटेगरी वाइज हो सकता है. एग्जाम्पल अगर 100 आइटम्स है तो दिस इज अबाउट व्हाट, रीजनेबलनेस टेस्ट, ठीक है. Now let us discuss it assertion wise. So occurrence. अब देखो सेल्स में हमारा क्या था, दैट मैनेजमेंट, अब मैनेजमेंट बन जाओ ना, कि सेल्स में तो हम क्या कर रहे थे कि मैनेजमेंट ने ओवर स्टेटमेंट तो नहीं किया, है ना, सो दैट उससे क्या हो जाए, प्रॉफिट्स इन्फ्लेट हो जाए, क्योंकि जितना सेल ज्यादा होगा उतना प्रॉफिट ज्यादा होगा, ठीक है. परचेजेस में क्या होगा, जितना कम खर्चा रिकॉर्ड करोगे उतना प्रॉफिट ज्यादा होगा ना, है ना. सो ensure that purchases are not understated or overstated by performing the following procedures. अगर मैनेजमेंट को ओवरस्टेट करना है प्रॉफिट, है ना, तो मैनेजमेंट क्या करेगा, मैनेजमेंट विल डिक्रीज द परचेजेस. और अगर अंडरस्टेट करना है प्रॉफिट तो मैनेजमेंट क्या करेगा, इट विल इंक्रीज द परचेजेस. तो ऑडिटर विल सी दैट दिस शुड नॉट हैपन, ठीक है. अब ये एग्जैक्टली सेम है जो हमने वहां किया विथ फ्यू डिफरेंसेस. सो लेट अस जस्ट सी. सो परचेजेस आर नॉट ओवरस्टेटेड या अंडरस्टेटेड. फिक्टिशियस वेंडर्स तो नहीं है, फिक्टिशियस इज व्हाट, फेक. तो वेंडर सिलेक्शन प्रोसेस देखो कैसे होता है. व्हेन गुड्स आर रिसीव्ड एट द फैक्ट्री गेट, वेदर एंट्री होती है या नहीं इन द इनवर्ड एंट्री गेट रजिस्टर, ठीक है. क्वालिटी इंस्पेक्शन होता है या नहीं, ठीक है. गुड्स रिसीव नोट प्रिपेयर और साइन होता है या नहीं. अप्रूवल, परचेज इनवॉइस, दैट इज द बायर्स कॉपी ऑफ वेंडर्स इनवॉइस, सप्लायर्स इनवॉइस, उसको अप्रूव कौन करता है. टू वे थ्री वे मैच हो रहा है या नहीं. स्टॉक रिकॉर्ड अपडेटेड है या नहीं. परचेज इनवॉइस ओरिजिनल ही कंसीडर होता है ना, इट इज बुक्ड ओनली वंस ना, वंस द रिस्क एंड रिवॉर्ड हैज बीन ट्रांसफर टू द क्लाइंट. वेदर इट इज FOB CIF, आपको पता है ना, ये फ्री ऑन बोर्ड या CIF. I hope you all are aware about it. Just a minute. Cost, insurance and freight. देखो फ्री ऑन बोर्ड में क्या है, when see free on board is where the seller is responsible for taking the goods near to the port to his end. मतलब अपने port के पास he has delivered the goods, and after that it is the responsibility of the purchaser to take it to its factory. तो यहीं पर तो risk and reward has been transferred now. So the client will consider the this transaction as a purchases in their books of accounts when the goods have been transferred to the port near the end of the seller. Clear? ठीक है? The rest of these expenditure is to be borne by the buyer himself. CIF में क्या होता है? The seller is willing to bear this cost plus the cost of insurance and freight till the destination of the buyer. तो जब when the goods will be reaching the factory of the buyer, then the risk and reward will be considered as transfer to the client entity. So in that case, the risk and reward will be considered at the point, that is at the port near to the buyer. Clear? So accordingly, the client is going to consider the purchases based on whether it is FOB or CIF, because based on this it will be considered now कि किसका goods in transit है. यहाँ पर see, this is what the port of the seller. ठीक है? Port. And this is whose buyer's port. So FOB में तो यहीं पर the risk and reward has been transferred, तो ये किसके लिए goods in transit हो गया? Buyer के लिए. लेकिन CIF में यहां तक का खर्चा कौन bear कर रहा है? Seller. तो it will be goods in transit of whom? The seller. ठीक है? So accordingly the invoice shall be booked. The invoice shall be in the name of the entity, and in case of different branches, it shall be addressed to the appropriate branches. The input tax credit, with respect to the purchases should be booked and it should be tallied with the returns. Related party को कोई सेल किया approved है या नहीं, sample देख लोगे, ARP कर लोगे. Purchases ऐसी तो नहीं है जो capitalize करना चाहिए था या whether P&L में charge करना था या capitalize करना था. Unusual transactions है तो उनका क्या देख लो? General entries देख लो. Clear? Is it clear? कोई doubt है? Now with respect to completeness and measurement, quickly देखते हैं because ये exactly same है. Perform cutoff procedures, that is correct accounting period में आए हैं नहीं. Check last 5 transaction at the period end. Good in transit किसका है? Again FOB CIF. है ना? Accounting देखो agreed terms के according है नहीं. Obtain written representation that all transaction have been recorded. ARP कर लो. Overall reasonableness of purchase quantity and price. This is something different which we will be covering just now. Wait. First let us have a look at it from the module. Disclosure भी कर लेते हैं, उसके बाद वो वाला point करेंगे. Now with respect to occurrence हमें क्या देखना है? Overstatement and understatement नहीं होना चाहिए. तो fictitious vendors तो नहीं है. Vendor selection process देख लो. फैक्ट्री गेट पे आए हैं तो वेदर सिक्योरिटी गेट इनवर्ट रजिस्टर में एंट्री हुई है नहीं, क्वालिटी इंस्पेक्शन होता है नहीं, जीआरएन कोई बनाता है और साइन करता है या नहीं, 2 वे 3 वे मैच करके देख लो, स्टॉक रिकॉर्ड अपडेट हो रहे हैं या नहीं, ऑल्सो ओरिजिनल कॉपी ही हो, इट शुड बी रिकॉर्डेड ओनली वंस, एंड एफओबी सीआईएफ का देख लो दैट फॉर whom it is to be considered as GIT and when its purchases need to be recorded. Purchase invoice should be in the name of the company. लेकिन अगर branches हैं, it may be addressed to the appropriate branch. Input tax component देख लो, tax returns से compare कर लो, जो books of accounts है वो देख लो. Related party है तो approval है या नहीं, है ना, verify कर लो, sample ले लो, ARPs कर लो, arms length है या नहीं, check कर लो. रिव्यू की परचेजेस जो थे कैपिटलाइज तो नहीं होने चाहिए थे या पीएनएल में ही जाना चाहिए, एंड जनरल एंट्रीज को कंसीडर कर लो. कंप्लीटनेस के लिए कट ऑफ कर लो, लास्ट 5 ट्रांजैक्शंस को कंसीडर कर लो. गुड्स इन ट्रांजिट किसके लिए हैं? कंसीडर व्हेन द रिस्क एंड रिवॉर्ड इज टू बी ट्रांसफर्ड बेस्ड ऑन द अग्रीमेंट. रिटन रिप्रेजेंटेशन ले लो दैट ऑल सेल्स हैव बीन कंसीडर्ड, ये अभी हम करेंगे. देन विद रिस्पेक्ट टू डिस्क्लोजर, so purchasing के लिए what are the disclosure? Ensure whether the following disclosures as required in, consider it as part 2. Schedule 3 part 2 to the Companies Act have been made. Whether purchases of stock in trade have been specifically disclosed, whether changes in inventory, finished goods, stock in trade, work in progress have been specifically disclosed, whether the transaction with related party are appropriately disclosed in the notes to account. Simple है ना? बताओ कुछ confusion है? So पहले ही क्या बात कर रहे हैं? Stock in trade की बात कर रहे हैं. Then it is saying whatever changes are saying, and then this point is related to related parties. ठीक है? Simple. ठीक है? Now with respect to this point, just 5 more minutes, then we will take the break. Perform analytical procedures to obtain audit evidence as to the overall reasonableness of purchase quantity and price. है ना? तो purchase quantity and price जो है वो ठीक है या नहीं, in order to verify that, auditor will consider what? He may perform various analytical review procedures like consumption analysis, stock composition analysis, and calculating various ratios. ठीक है? बहुत सिंपल है. ARN कहाँ लिखा है कन्हैया? ARN कहाँ है? GRN है, गुड्स रिसीव नोट, या ये ARP लिखा है मैंने? ARP इज एनालिटिकल रिव्यू प्रोसीजर्स. देखो कंजम्पशन एनालिसिस. सो ऑडिटर विल कंपेयर व्हाट? रॉ मटेरियल कंज्यूम ड्यूरिंग द ईयर एज पर मैन्युफैक्चरिंग अकाउंट, है ना? कितना रॉ मटेरियल कंज्यूम हो गया, एंड ही विल कंपेयर इट विद द क्लोजिंग स्टॉक ऑफ द प्रीवियस ईयर. ठीक है? Now, whatever is the closing stock of the previous year, auditor will compare कि कितना use हुआ during the year. Whatever are the significant differences, auditor will ask the management कि new purchases हैं क्या, or what is the reason for that difference. Simple. So consumption analysis कि कितना consume हुआ, कितना closing stock previous year का था, कोई variances है management से discuss कर लो. Simple. स्टॉक कॉम्पोजिशन. देखो कॉम्पोजिशन एज द नेम सजेस्ट कि कितना रॉ मटेरियल है एज अ परसेंटेज ऑफ टोटल स्टॉक. कंपोजिशन है ना? ये कैलकुलेट करो, प्रीवियस ईयर कैलकुलेट करो, कंपेयर करो, कोई डिफरेंस है तो आज द मैनेजमेंट. सिग्निफिकेंट वेरिएंसेस हैं तो मैनेजमेंट से पूछो व्हाट आर द रीजंस. स्टॉक कॉम्पोजिशन की रॉ मटेरियल एज अ परसेंटेज ऑफ टोटल स्टॉक. टोटल स्टॉक में तो आपका रॉ मटेरियल, फिनिश गुड्स, WIP सब कुछ आ गया ना. तो रॉ मटेरियल एज अ परसेंटेज ऑफ टोटल स्टॉक देखो लास्ट ईयर से कंपेयर करो. सिंपल. रेशियोज लाइक क्रेडिटर्स टर्नओवर रेशियो, स्टॉक टर्नओवर रेशियो, कंपेयर इट विद द प्रीवियस ईयर. सिग्निफिकेंट डिफरेंस है मैनेजमेंट से डिस्कस करो. रिव्यू द क्वांटिटेटिव रिकंसिलिएशन की ओपनिंग प्लस परचेजेस माइनस द कंजम्पशन, दिस शुड बी इक्वल टू क्लोजिंग. कोई वेरिएंस है, कोई डिफरेंस है तो मैनेजमेंट से डिस्कस करो. सिंपल है. तो यू मे गेट अ क्वेश्चन की what are the analytical review procedures with respect to reasonableness of purchase quantity and price. So consumption analysis, stock composition analysis, and ratio. You can always get MCQ whereby you are given that during the course of audit, the audit team is comparing the raw material percentage as a ratio of total stock and comparing it with the previous year. What is the following what is the correct term for this procedure? So consumption analysis, stock composition. तो देखो stock composition की कितना raw material is a part of the total stock, है ना? Clear? Is it clear? So this was about your purchases. And Kanhaiya, your doubt is not clear, please send it again. And students, others also, please reply whether this purchases part is also clear. अब तो it should be very easy for you, है ना? क्योंकि now तो you all have become masters in telling me as to what audit procedures, what documents are to be verified with respect to various assertions of the financial statements, be it the balance sheet captions or the P&L item. So quickly, I need all of you to reply. समझ आ रहा है? Are you all enjoying it or not? ठीक है? तो एक काम करना, ब्रेक में जाने से पहले do send in your replies. ठीक है? So we will take a break of 10 minutes here, and after the break I'll be starting with provisions and contingent liabilities, and after that we will be discussing 5 MCQs. And if you remember, I've asked you that some particular topic I have definitely included in MCQs. So I hope you all are prepared for that. ठीक है? So quick break of 10 minutes. उसके बाद So students, I hope you all are back after the break. And I can see that many of you have already joined. Okay. So students are saying, ma'am, we are enjoying the lectures. You have explained it in simpler manner, understood, ma'am. So that is really very motivating. So thank you, students, for such motivating messages. And now, as many of you have asked to first discuss the MCQs and then the last topic for today, which is the verification of various assertions with respect to provisions and contingent liabilities. So let us start with discussing the MCQs, 5 MCQs for today's session. And students, as in the last session, I have already told you that with respect to this topic, definitely I'm going to give you 2 or 3 MCQs. So today I've given you those MCQs with respect to the disclosure requirements of long term borrowings, है ना? मैंने last time ये आपको बताया था ना, short term borrowings वाला and other current liabilities वाला. ठीक है? So I remember Priyanka was saying that, अरे प्रियंका का ही मैसेज है that ma'am, I'm enjoying the lectures, these are really very interactive. So Priyanka, now in the last session you were saying that ma'am, we will be fully prepared, है ना? So let me just assess as to whether you have actually prepared or not. ठीक है? So now solve this MCQ1, and as I always tell you that please read the question carefully. Not लिखा है, correct लिखा है, incorrect लिखा है, to be included लिखा है, not to be included लिखा है, and please I need the correct answers. ठीक है? So देखो, अब point number 1 के लिए ना I am getting different answers. A, B, C तीनों आ चुके हैं from different students. So please again I'll request you read this question carefully. और अगर कोई कंफ्यूजन है, ओपन योर बुक, लुक एट द टॉपिक्स ऑफ लॉन्ग टर्म बोरोविंग्स, है ना? अदर करंट लाइबिलिटीज. लॉन्ग टर्म बोरोविंग्स तो स्टार्टिंग में ही दिया हुआ है, बोरोविंग्स इज टॉपिक में, एंड अदर करंट लाइबिलिटीज इज मेंशन्ड वेयर ट्रेड पेबल्स एंड अदर करंट लाइबिलिटीज गिवन, and then answer. ठीक है? And really students, I really want all of you to answer it correctly. और ये तो ओपन बुक टेस्ट है, मैंने आपको लास्ट टाइम क्वेश्चन भी बता दिया था. देखो अब कुछ करेक्ट आंसर स्टार्ट हुआ है. देखो, सो लेट अस रीड दिस क्वेश्चन. The disclosure with respect to current maturities to long-term borrowings shall be disclosed under which of the following head in the balance sheet? So देखो देखो वैसे तो ना, if I tell you, the answer is hidden in the question itself. So the disclosure with respect to current maturities to long-term borrowings shall be disclosed under which of the following head? Is it long-term borrowing? Is it short-term borrowing? Is it other current liabilities? Or is it cash and cash equivalents? Hana? And if you remember, when we were discussing this topic, that is borrowings ka topic, I told you that this is a recent amendment in Schedule 3. So it is very, very important. Hana? So I need all of you to answer it correctly. So let me just show it to you from the module also. So this is what? So we are going to the borrowings topic. So the question is that current maturities to long-term borrowings kahan aayega in the balance sheet? Okay? So the option is long-term borrowings, short-term borrowings, other current liabilities, and the last option is cash and cash equivalents. So let me just take you to the topic of borrowings. So see, ये long-term borrowings था, ठीक है? These are your short-term borrowings. Just a moment. Not this. Just give me a second. Borrowings. So these are what? Long-term borrowings. ठीक है. Then the next heading is short-term borrowings. है ना? And the fifth, देखो, I have marked it as important also. Current maturities to long-term borrowing shall be disclosed separately. है ना? So the answer is what? B. ठीक है? So for all those who have answered it correctly, I'm really very happy because this shows as to how attentive you were in the last sessions. ठीक है? Now the next question, I'm telling you the first three questions are going to check your knowledge with respect to two items of financial statement, which is what? Borrowings and other current liabilities. ठीक है? So students are saying, ma'am, my answer is correct. Many of you are mentioning it. So that is really very good. Next question. So write second and whatever is your answer. Which of the following shall not to be disclosed under the head other current liabilities? So as I always tell you to read the question first carefully. Shall not to be disclosed. Interest accrued but not due on borrowings. Interest accrued and due on borrowings. Long-term maturities of finance lease obligations and unpaid dividends. So यहाँ पर तो आपको पता ही है ये other current liabilities के लिए पूछ रहा है. Which of the following shall not be disclosed under the head other current liabilities? And students, I am repeating it again and again. The MCQs, your case scenarios are so scoring. है ना? पर हाँ, उसके लिए एक तो read अच्छे से करो question. The top line also, not only the options that are given, the question also, because अगर देखो यहाँ होता है shall be disclosed, तो your correct answer would have been different ना. And please read the module in entirety. With respect to any line that is coming in your module, you may get any MCQ. ठीक है? So I have received answer from Ayushi, Aman, Alok, Kanhaiya, Khojema, and all of you are correct. Chitala, Dhyanesh, Yatiraj, Varsha, Jyoti, Priyanka, Pritika, Dhruvi, Hemlatha. Everyone has answered it absolutely correctly. So, which of the following shall not to be disclosed? So, let me just take you through this topic of what? Just a minute. Current liabilities, other current liabilities. Na? So, unpaid. ठीक है. So, this is our topic. So this is the topic of trade receivables and other current liabilities. So other current liabilities में देखो क्या आ रहा है. Other current liabilities will include what? Interest accrued but not due on borrowings. So this is our first option. So the question was what? Which of the following shall not be disclosed? तो ये तो disclose करना है. So this is not the correct option. Interest accrued and due on borrowings. So ये वाला point भी disclose तो करना है. एंड अनपेड डिविडेंड भी आ रहा है तो ये भी डिस्क्लोज करना है. ये वाला पॉइंट यू विल सी नहीं है कहीं पर भी. ठीक है. सो नाउ टेल मी. तो द आंसर इज सी, व्हिच ऑल ऑफ यू except for two students. Now I can see that two answers are incorrect. So tell me, where are these shown? Long-term maturities to finance lease obligations. देखो, लॉन्ग टर्म मेच्योरिटीज टू फाइनेंस लीज ऑब्लिगेशन, ये बताओ कहां पर शो करते हो? अंडर विच हेड इट विल कम? सो इट विल बी अंडर लॉन्ग टर्म बोरोइंग्स. है ना? अब तो देखो हमने वी हैव डिस्कस्ड अबाउट लॉजिक ऑफ ईच एंड एवरीथिंग. चलो ठीक है. नाउ थर्ड, which of the following shall not be disclosed under the head long term liabilities? इसको लॉन्ग टर्म बोरोइंग ही कर लो, ठीक है। सो डेफर्ड पेमेंट लाइबिलिटीज, unpaid matured debentures and interest thereon, bonds and debentures, all of the above, ठीक है। सो ध्रुवी, ध्यानेश, प्रणव, वर्षा, अमन, गौरव, प्रियंका, ज्योति, एब्सोल्युटली करेक्ट है ना। एंड खोजेमा, योर आंसर विद रिस्पेक्ट टू थर्ड क्वेश्चन इज ऑल्सो करेक्ट। नहीं ज्योति, यू आर नॉट करेक्ट विद रिस्पेक्ट टू सेकंड क्वेश्चन। लॉन्ग टर्म बोरोइंग में आएगा ना लॉन्ग टर्म मेच्योरिटीज, ठीक है। चेक योर आंसर ज्योति। एंड विद रिस्पेक्ट टू थर्ड पॉइंट विच इज द करेक्ट ऑप्शन, सो विच ऑफ द फॉलोइंग शैल नॉट बी डिस्क्लोज। डेफर्ड पेमेंट लाइबिलिटीज तो आता ही है हमारा लॉन्ग टर्म बोरोइंग्स में, बॉन्ड्स एंड डिबेंचर्स भी आते हैं, ठीक है। शैल नॉट बी डिस्क्लोज्ड, सो द आंसर इज व्हाट, unpaid matured debentures and interest accrued thereon. So I'll do one thing, just a minute. So change it with long-term maturities of finance lease obligations, ठीक है। So the answer is what? Unpaid matured debentures and interest accrued thereon. Why? Tell me, where will it come? So it will come where? Under other current liabilities. Let me just take you through the module. Other current liabilities हमने पढ़ा था ना, ये देखो, ठीक है। Is it clear? Students, is it clear? Now with respect to fourth point, obtaining trade receivables aging report and analysis and identification of doubtful debts is performed during audit of accounts receivable balances to address the following balance sheet assertion. Is it valuation, rights and obligations, existence or completeness? अभी कैसे सॉल्व करना है? Read this again and just try to see as to valuation में आप क्या, like what is meant by valuation assertion, what is meant by rights and obligations, existence में क्या करते हो, completeness में क्या चेक करते हो, ठीक है। And then answer to this question. Kojima, check your answer with respect to fourth point. Obtaining trade receivable aging report and analysis, identification of doubtful debts. तो ये आप क्यों पता करोगे? आपको ये देखना है प्रोविजन बनाना है या नहीं, बैड डेट तो नहीं दिखाना है इसको, राइट ऑफ तो नहीं करना है, तो इट विल हैव एन इम्पैक्ट ऑन व्हाट assertion. अब बताओ, नाउ आंसर इट. So Khojema, please now after what I have explained, that I have highlighted, I have circled the keywords aging report, analysis, doubtful debts. अब ये सब क्यों करोगे आप, बताओ. ठीक है. So will it have an impact on valuation assertion, rights and obligations, existence, completeness? देखो, राइट्स एंड ऑब्लिगेशन में तो आप क्या देखते हो कि राइट है या नहीं, ये ट्रेड रिसीवेबल पर वेदर द कंपनी इज हैविंग अ राइट और नॉट, ठीक है. एग्जिस्ट करता है या नहीं, ठीक है, एग्जिस्टेंस है ना, वेदर इट रिलेटेड टू द एंटिटी. कंप्लीटनेस में तो आपको बताइए ऑल debtors have been included. So see, provision, bad debt, write off, इसका impact तो कहाँ आने वाला है, valuation पे ना. So whether the amount that is getting reflected in the trade receivables, whether that is valued accurately as per the applicable financial reporting framework or not, so the answer will be what, valuation. ठीक है. So I can see Manisha Ben, Aman, Harshita, Anuradha, Chitala, Krishnan, Varsha, Jyoti, Yatiraj, Pranav, है ना, Dyanesh, Priyanka, Hemlata, all have answered it correctly. Now, for all the students for whom, like, whose name I haven't taken, so they have not answered it correctly. देखो ना, राइट्स एंड ऑब्लिगेशन थोड़ी ना एस्टैब्लिश होंगे एजिंग रिपोर्ट से, या एग्जिस्टेंस तो आप बैलेंस कंफर्मेशन लेते हो ना, कंफर्मेशन रिक्वेस्ट लेटर सेंड करते हो ना. एजिंग रिपोर्ट का क्या पर्पस है? यू आर एनालाइजिंग कि हाउ ओल्ड इज द डेटर and what will be the purpose, because the auditor wants to know whether it is doubtful, whether it is whether a provision needs to be created or it needs to be written off as bad debt, है ना. जितना पुराना डेटर है, प्रोविजन पे it is going to have an impact, writing off पे it is going to have an impact, so it is going to affect the valuation assertion. ठीक है. Yes, students, I'll upload all these MCQs. Now this last MCQ for today. Search for unrecorded liability is performed during the audit of current liabilities to address the following balance sheet assertion. Search of unrecorded liability is performed during the audit of current liabilities to address the following balance sheet assertion. Is it valuation, rights and obligations, existence, or completeness? Unrecorded liability. Varsha, Alok, Ayushi, Pranav, Piyush, absolutely correct. Others also please reply. Search for unrecorded liabilities performed during the audit of current liabilities to address the following balance sheet assertion. So quickly, I am waiting for your replies. After your replies, we'll be starting with what? Your last topic for today, which is provisions and contingent liabilities. So if that none of the transactions is omitted, remember, or none of all the liabilities that should have been recorded have actually been recorded. So the answer is what? Completeness. Jyoti, Dyanesh, Kanhaiya, Pritika, Dhruvi, Hemlata, absolutely correct. So the answer is what? Completeness. Search for unrecorded liability is performed during the audit of current liabilities to address the following balance sheet assertion, है ना. तो कोई unrecorded तो नहीं है. So it is what? Completeness, that all liabilities have been considered, है ना. तभी तो आप देख रहे हो ना कि कोई unrecorded तो नहीं है. ठीक है. Yes, Chitala, Vinayka, Manisha Ben, Aman, absolutely correct. ठीक है. So I hope you have enjoyed these MCQs, and I really want all of you to answer all the MCQs by your own and answer them correctly. ठीक है. So so far we have discussed 20 MCQs, and 90% of the times I have received the correct answers, which is very good. So for all those who are not able to give the correct answer in the first attempt, no worries. Go to the module, read it again. I'm sure that after that reading of the module, you will be able to, answer it correctly. Okay, so I hope you all are clear. So now let us start with the last topic for today, which is your, just a minute, provisions and contingent liabilities. And students, in the next session, see, the next session is on Monday now. So before coming for the next session, I would have uploaded all the MCQs, descriptive questions, case scenarios, true, false, all the assignments I would have uploaded. I'll try to discuss all the questions, but again, it depends upon the available time, because abhi we have a number of topics left along with the notes that are given at the end of the chapter. Okay? So I'll request you all that before coming for the session on Monday, please go through, please read all the questions so that in case of any doubt in any question, we can at least discuss that. But my first endeavor will be to discuss all the questions with you. Okay? So Priyanka is saying, ma'am, I got 5 out of 5, which is very good. So Priyanka is saying, ma'am, you have made me regain the confidence I used to have in foundation. So thank you, Priyanka. See, our purpose is to make you understand everything, make everything easy for you to remember also. And we really want all of you to have confidence that you have understood, and now you know that how to write the answers or how to answer the MCQs. है ना? अब वो उसके लिए आपको सेशंस को भी सुनना पड़ेगा, मॉड्यूल भी पढ़ना पड़ेगा, आपको ये एमसीक्यूज खुद से प्रैक्टिस भी करना पड़ेगा. स्टूडेंट्स, देयर आर एमसीक्यू बुकलेट्स अवेलेबल, है ना, आरटीपीज हैं, आपके मॉक टेस्ट पेपर्स हैं लास्ट ईयर, लाइक ऑल दीज थिंग्स आर अवेलेबल ना. सो गो थ्रू देम, प्रैक्टिस करो. एमसीक्यूज केस सिनेरियोज को तो ओरली यू कैन सी. Rest with respect to descriptive questions. अच्छा, true false में you will not get marks unless and until you write the correct reasons also, है ना? So your reasoning should also be correct. With respect to descriptive question, I always tell you that practice few questions by writing, है ना? Because you will be getting the marks for what you will be writing on the paper, है ना? So start writing, at least see with respect to this now. Okay, I'll give you a homework that with respect to willful defaulter का एक आंसर लिख के देखो, that what are the additional regulatory requirements, ठीक है? And if immovable property title deeds are not held in the name of the company, that during the course of audit the auditor finds that so and so is happening, that the title deeds are not held in the name of the company, so what are the additional regulatory requirement? एक बारी just try ना that how to write the answers, ठीक है? Once you will start writing answer ना, I'm sure that since you have understood these chapters in detail, you will be able to write the correct answers. ठीक है? I always ask you to learn the keywords. Keywords तो pick करोगे ना, connecting language can be yours. ठीक है? Is it clear to all those who are saying as to ma'am how to answer? MCQ समझ आ रहे हैं ना? Descriptive भी हम next class में discuss करेंगे as to how to answer. ठीक है? Now चलो, let's start with the next topic for today, and which is the last topic for today, which is what? One of the balance sheet captions that is left in this chapter is what? The audit of various assertions of provisions and contingent liabilities. ठीक है? Before starting with this topic, I want all of you to reply as to whether you are clear about what is provision, what is contingent liability, and what is the accounting standard that comes to your mind if we discuss what provision and contingent liability. Quickly, I need all of you to answer. Okay? I want to finish up this chapter, this topic today. So tell me what is meant by provision and contingent liability. Send in your replies. Students, I'm waiting for your replies. So students are saying, ma'am, everything is clear. ठीक है, ठीक है. Standard of or ऐसे तो मैंने पूछा ही नहीं है लोग. I'm talking about accounting standard. ये ऐसे नंबर तो मैंने आपको लास्ट सेशन में बता दिया था ना. So tell me, are you all clear about the meaning of term provision and contingent liability? So you are saying, ma'am, yes. So dekho, provisions are what? So provision, basically it is a liability, but where the exact amount is not known. So it can be measured only with a substantial degree of estimation. Hana? If let's say any litigation is going on, तो आपको पता है liability is there, but the exact amount क्या है you don't know. If the company is selling products and it has given certain warranty, कि we will make good by repair or replacement so and so product, अगर within 3 years any problem is there in the product, so पता है आपको that there is a liability, but what is the exact amount is not known. ठीक है. So a provision will be created, provision for bad and doubtful debt, है ना. So this is what provision, where a liability which can be measured only with the substantial degree of estimation, मतलब जिसको आप exact amount से you cannot measure. ठीक है. So a provision is recognized when an entity has a present obligation as a result of past event. It is probable that outflow of resources would be required to settle the obligation, and so it is connected by the term and. ठीक है. That is all the conditions should be satisfied. Reliable estimate can be made. ठीक है. So let me just take you through the exact definition from the module and then we will discuss it. ठीक है. ठीक है. So provision. A provision is a liability which can be measured only by substantial degree of estimation. That is, exact amount cannot be known. And when is it recognized? When all these three conditions are satisfied. By, because this is connected by the term and, or nahi hai yahan par. An entity has a present obligation as a result of past event. So let us try to understand this with the help of warranty ka example. So warranty kya hai? That jab bhi the company has a sale transaction, a warranty is given that if there is any problem in the product, let's say within the next 1 year, the company is going to replace it or repair it, है ना. तो present obligation है that the company will have to repair it, है ना, as a result of past event. What is the past event? That there was a sale along with which warranty was given. ठीक है. It is probable. What is meant by probable? More likely than not. That chances of this happening is more than 50%. It is probable that an outflow of resources embodying economic benefits will be required to settle the obligation. So chances are there more than 50% that outflow of resources will be required. खर्चा होगा ना कुछ, तो outflow of resources, and a reliable estimate can be made. Highly uncertain nahi hai. A reliable estimate can be made. If all these conditions are not met, then provision is not recognized in the books of account. समझ आता है? ठीक है. So present obligation है. Why? Because something happened in the past. Plus उस present obligation को आप, it is probable, the chances are more than 50% कि outflow होगा. And कितना outflow होगा उसका reliable estimate management can make. So a provision will be created. ठीक है. So this was about what? Provision, and AS29 absolutely correct. Many of you have answered. ठीक है. Now contingent liability क्या होता है? So if I consider this definition, यहाँ पर provision क्या होता है? When all the three conditions are satisfied. But contingent liability में, if this first condition is only satisfied, but these two conditions are not satisfied, then see, यहाँ क्या लिखा है? These conditions are not met, no provision shall be recognized. So if there is a present obligation as a result of past event, but it is not probable that outflow होगा, and reliable estimate cannot be made, तो क्या करना है? Provision तो नहीं बनाना है. Then it will be shown as a contingent liability. So let us have a look at it. A present obligation that arises from the past event, but it is not recognized as a provision. Why? Because it is not probable that the outflow of resources embodying economic benefits will be required to settle the obligation, or the amount of obligation cannot be measured with sufficient reliability. तो या second या third में से कोई clause meet नहीं होता, या दोनों ही meet नहीं होता, then it will be shown as what? Your contingent liability. Clear? ठीक है. Or the first point says, so this was the second point, a contingent liability is a possible obligation that arises from the past event whose existence will be confirmed only by the occurrence or non-occurrence of one or more of the uncertain future events, not wholly within the control of the entity. Take example of any litigation, a suit, Hana. So whether the company will be required to have some outflows, it will depend upon whether the company will win or lose the case. So it can be confirmed only by occurrence or non-occurrence of one or more uncertain future events, not wholly within the control of the entity. Entity के हाथ में थोड़ी ना that whether entity will win or lose the case, है ना? So possibility है ना? तो provision तो create नहीं करोगे आप, right? So what will be done? It will be shown as a contingent liability. Clear? Now tell me again your exercise to just think as to if you are in a situation whereby you are being asked to verify the provisions contingent liability that has been shown in the books of ABC Limited, tell me what all documents come to your mind. क्या क्या समझ आता है? Please do not look at the module. Try to answer to this on your own. ठीक है? क्या मैनेजमेंट से बोलोगे? What all documents you require? Students, I'm waiting for your replies. ठीक है? Tell me. Provisions को आपको verify करना है, contingent liability को verify करना है. देखो, try to understand कि जब provision बनाया होगा ना, so उसका एक schedule ले सकते हैं, ठीक है? जैसे many of you are saying, ठीक है, आलोक is saying, ma'am, provision calculated on what basis? तो what are the underlying assumptions? Estimate है ना? Then what is the basis? ठीक है, calculation को check कर लेंगे. Yes, Dhyanesh is saying, ma'am, expert report. Actuaries might have been involved. Legal expert, है ना? तो उन सब का reports ले सकते हैं ना? ठीक है? Yes, Dhyanesh is saying, ma'am, list of all the provisions. Yes. ठीक है? Various agreements, जैसे warranties का, अगर आपका warranty का है तो agreement of that, ठीक है? Then हाँ, profit and loss and balance sheet को तो देखेंगे ही अमन. Written representation, absolutely correct, Yatiraj. Then litigation है तो experts report, Alok is saying. Dhyanesh is saying estimation of such provision. Priyanka is saying list of provision. Piyush is saying warranty agreements. Priyanka is also saying the same. Then minutes of meeting, provisions with respect to legal claims, Shitala is saying. So absolutely correct, but इसको अब हम assertion wise we will consider it. ठीक है? So we have seen what are provision contingent liability. Now with respect to existence, देखो बहुत simple है. आप पहले मैनेजमेंट को बोलोगे ना, मैनेजमेंट गिव मी अ लिस्ट ऑफ द ऑल द प्रोविजंस दैट आर कमिंग. यू विल कंपेयर दैट टोटल विद दैट इज अपीयरिंग इन द जनरल लेजर. ठीक है, सिंपल है. अगर कोई वारंटीज हैं, अंडरलाइंग एग्रीमेंट, अब तो अंडरलाइंग आपको समझ आ गया ना, हमने बहुत बड़ी डिस्कस किया है. सो why I'm repeating this word again and again. अब तो you should have learned कि अगर मेरे को एग्जाम में अच्छे मार्क्स लेने हैं तो I should use some commanded language. Underlying agreements, है ना? That is the agreements that are the basis or foundation of that provision, है ना? Underlying working or basis complete है या नहीं, accurate है या नहीं. अगर any experts have been the services of experts have been taken, then the experts report, the calculation, the working. If any complex calculations are there, if any actuary has been considered, then the actuarial valuation report, assessment of legal experts report, ठीक है, and verify the assumptions that have been used by the experts. देखो assumptions correct हैं, based on that only provision आया होगा ना. So whether it exists or not, है ना, पूरा list ले लेंगे ना, क्या agreements हैं, ये सब देखोगे ना आप. ठीक है. Now students, in our chapter number 3, सी जहां पर हमने बात क्या किया, एक्सपर्ट. तो अब ये कौन से एक्सपर्ट की बात कर रहे हैं? मैनेजमेंट एक्सपर्ट. मैनेजमेंट ने लीगल एक्सपर्ट को हायर किया ना, मैनेजमेंट ने एक्चुअरीज को हायर किया ना. व्हाई? बिकॉज मैनेजमेंट ने प्रोविजन कब बनाया? व्हाइल प्रिपेयरिंग द फाइनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट्स, और उसमें मैनेजमेंट हैज टेकन द सर्विसेज ऑफ सर्टेन एक्सपर्ट्स. सो दीज आर व्हाट मैनेजमेंट एक्सपर्ट. नाउ इफ यू रिमेंबर, वी हैव डिस्कस्ड दिस इन द लास्ट सेशन दैट SA 500 with respect to audit evidence, it says that when the auditor is using the work of the management's expert, तो ऐसे थोड़ी ना auditor किसी भी expert का काम use कर लेगा. Auditor will see, auditor is responsible for his opinion, for his report, है ना. Ultimately तो auditor is giving an opinion on the financial statement as a whole ना. हाँ, there if management has used the work of an expert, auditor can use that, but before that auditor needs to make certain evaluations with respect to the work of that expert, कि वो जो work है expert का वो auditor के काम का है भी या नहीं, एक्सपर्ट को एक्चुअल में कुछ आता है या नहीं, एक्सपर्ट क्वालिफाइड है या नहीं. सो ऑडिटर विल कंसीडर दैट बिफोर यूजिंग द वर्क ऑफ द मैनेजमेंट एक्सपर्ट. एंड स्टूडेंट, हियर आई एम नॉट टॉकिंग अबाउट ऑडिटर्स एक्सपर्ट. There is a separate essay for that, though that is not in your course. So I'm talking about what management expert. ठीक है? Is it clear? ठीक है? So management expert. ठीक है? So auditor will evaluate. If you remember, I used to call this as evaluate the CCO, competence, capability, and objectivity of the expert. Whether it is employed within the entity or is it an outsourced service provided by an outsourced party, outside party. Whether the expert is independent, ऐसा तो नहीं है कोई भी related party है, फिर तो expert जो opinion देगा वो management के favor में ही देगा ना. Auditor's previous experience of expert work. If auditor auditor is having any previous experience with that expert, so auditor will consider that. Knowledge of the expert, qualification, है ना. And what is this point? The मेंबरशिप ऑफ अ प्रोफेशनल बॉडी. देखो, अगर आप सपोज कोई लीगल एक्सपर्ट का ओपिनियन मैनेजमेंट हैज कंसीडर्ड एंड यू सी दैट ही इज द एक्सपर्ट इज एन एडवोकेट, ठीक है, मेंबर ऑफ बार काउंसिल ऑफ इंडिया, विज अ सिचुएशन वेयर दैट एक्सपर्ट इज जस्ट एन ट्रेनी ऑफ लॉ सब्जेक्ट, है ना, इन द लॉ सब्जेक्ट, तो आप किसके ऊपर यू विल बी एबल टू रिलाई? ऑब्वियसली a person who is an advocate, who is having a membership of a professional body, who is duly qualified, है ना. So consider the competence, capability, and objectivity of that expert. Clear? ठीक है. Obtain understanding of work of expert. So auditor will see whether he is having an expertise to evaluate the work of the expert, evaluate the assumptions and methods of that expert, evaluate the nature of internal external data that has been used by expert. So if auditor is able to obtain an understanding of that expert, auditor needs to do that. You might ask me, ma'am, अगर नहीं कर सकता तो auditor can also take the services of auditors expert, है ना. auditor अपना भी तो एक expert hire कर सकता है ना. So auditor will consider what? He'll obtain an understanding of the work of the expert. ठीक है. Then auditor will evaluate the appropriateness of expert work, whether that expert work is appropriate for the purposes of the auditor, है ना. जिस पर्पस के लिए, जिस assertion के लिए ऑडिटर को वो वर्क ऑफ एक्सपर्ट यूज करना है, whether that is appropriate or not. If it is not, auditor will perform some other audit procedures, है ना. So relevance and reasonableness of the expert's finding, relevance, completeness, accuracy of source data, है ना. Let's say अगर जो expert है, he is giving an opinion based on the internal data that is available, and let's say expert is an employee of the company, है ना. तो chances are there ना that auditor will extend the nature timing extent of his additional audit procedures, कि ठीक है, he'll consider it, but it might be possible ना that auditor will decide to extend his entry of the other audit procedures. Why? Because auditor consider that this is less reliable, because these are what internal expert based on wholly and solely the internal data, which can always be manipulated. ठीक है. And as many of you are seeing that, ma'am, auditor will obtain what? Written representation that all the provisions that should have been recognized have been actually recognized. देखो, जहां पर completeness की बात आती है ना, auditor will perform various procedures जो existence में perform होते हैं, but अपार्ट फ्रॉम दैट रिटन रिप्रेजेंटेशन तो ले ही लेंगे ना, बिकॉज आपको ये कैसे पता चलेगा ना कि ऑल इन्फॉर्मेशन आया नहीं, अनलेस एंड अंटिल मैनेजमेंट गिव दिस टू यू इन राइटिंग. हाँ, दिस इज नॉट द सफिशिएंट एंड एप्रोप्रिएट ऑडिट एविडेंस, बट एक नेसेसरी ऑडिट एविडेंस तो है ना. सो आप देखोगे कंप्लीटनेस में रिटन रिप्रेजेंटेशन दैट ऑल प्रोविजन हैव बीन रिकॉग्नाइज्ड, ये आता है विद रिस्पेक्ट टू द कंप्लीटनेस असर्शन, है ना. ठीक है. सी ऑडिटर तो एक्सपर्ट है, प्रणव इज सेइंग देखो ऑडिटर तो एक्सपर्ट है. इफ यू रिमेम्बर स्टूडेंट्स, ऐसे 500 में जब हमने ये सब पढ़ा था, देन एट दैट मोमेंट आई टोल्ड यू द डेफिनेशन ऑफ मैनेजमेंट एक्सपर्ट. वो कौन होता है? अ पर्सन हु इज हैविंग एक्सपर्टाइज इन द फील्ड अदर देन अकाउंटिंग एंड ऑडिटिंग. अदर देन अकाउंटिंग एंड ऑडिटिंग. ठीक है प्रणव? सो ऑडिटर एक्सपर्ट है अकाउंटिंग में, ऑडिटिंग में, बट अदर देन अकाउंटिंग एंड ऑडिटिंग का फील्ड था, इफ यू रिमेम्बर. ठीक है? सो स्टूडेंट्स, आई होप दिस इज क्लियर. Management expert का definition is given in SA 500, which says the services of an expert taken by the management in the field other than accounting and auditing. ठीक है प्रणव, is it clear? So let us have a look at it from the module. Now, existence assertion. So this is a balance sheet caption, तो exist करेगा, completeness assertion and valuation. ठीक है? So first of all, auditor will obtain a list of all the provisions, compare them with the balances that is appearing in the general ledger. Inspect the underlying agreements, warranty commitments के केस में, legal के केस में. ठीक है? Underlying workings, basis for each of the provisions. ठीक है? Wherever required, obtain explanation, expert report, calculation, the working, the provisions. ठीक है? In case of a legal dispute, आप क्या legal expert का consider कर सकते हो. ठीक है? Underlying assertion of the expert auditor should consider. Now, as per SA 500 audit evidence, when using the work of the management expert audit evidence as audit evidence, auditor should what audit evidence should auditor obtain? So he should evaluate the competence, capability and objectivity of the expert, whether the expert employed is employed by the entity or outside party, whether the expert is independent. देखो independence is very necessary now. ठीक है? Auditor's previous experience with that expert, knowledge of the expert, his qualification, membership of the professional body, है ना? Obtaining an understanding of the work of that expert, whether auditor has expertise to evaluate the work of the expert, evaluate the assumptions, methods, evaluate the nature of data, internal, external data, है ना? ये सभी देखते हुए तो you will consider ना that whether to rely on whether to use the work of the management expert. Evaluate the appropriateness, relevance, reasonableness of expert findings and conclusions, relevance, completeness, accuracy of source data. अगर आपको पता है जो डेटा एक्सपर्ट इज यूजिंग ना इंटरनल है एंड दिस इज इनकम्प्लीट, तो ऑब्वियसली यू आर नॉट गोइंग टू यूज, यू विल perform what some additional audit procedures. Auditor shall obtain what? Written representation. And now to you all must be knowing that SA 580. ठीक है? Now with respect to the disclosure requirements, बहुत simple है. And since this is what pertaining to balance sheet, so again back to part 1, schedule 3. So ensure whether the disclosures required under schedule 3 part 1 to the Companies Act have been made. So you will see that long term provisions आते हैं, followed by what? Just a minute. Short term provisions. ठीक है? So long term provisions, so provisions for employee benefits, like for gratuity, for PF, है ना? Provisions create कर रहे हैं. Why? Because आपको exact amount is not known ना, तो for employee benefits and for others specify the nature. Same way with respect to short term also, amount shall be classified as provision for employee benefits and others. Specify the nature. Simple. Now with respect to the contingent liabilities and commitment not provided for, ठीक है? So with respect to contingent liabilities, ठीक है? So provision नहीं बना तभी तो आपने then only you have shown it as a contingent liability ना. So they shall be classified as claims against the company not acknowledged as debt. Claims against the company not acknowledged as debt. Guarantees, other monies for which company is contingently liable. तो देखो guarantees तो आपको समझ आ गया होगा. Other monies for which company is contingently liable. Now what is meant by claims against the company not acknowledged as debt? ठीक है. So basically, see, let's say the union is the labor union, है ना? It is asking for some additional wages. ठीक है, additional wages. It is the union is going on strike again and again. ठीक है, but the company has not considered, not acknowledged it as a debt. So it is a claim against the company that union क्या कह रहा है, लेबर यूनियन, की हमारी सैलरीज बढ़ाओ, हमारी वेजेस बढ़ाओ. ठीक है, so they are asking for a additional wages, but the company has not considered it as a debt. तभी तो as a contingent liability आप show कर रहे हो ना. ठीक है, clear? Claims against the company not acknowledged as debt. ठीक है, guarantees, other money for which company is contingently liable. Clear? Is it clear? Further, commitment. So this was with respect to contingent liability disclosure. Now with respect to the commitments, these shall be classified as estimated amount of contracts remaining to be executed on capital account and not to provided for. So the contracts that are pending, they are remaining to be executed, Hana, and for which you have not made a provision. Why provision nahi banaya? Because wo condition satisfy nahi hongi, the conditions that we have discussed. So these are shown as what? The commitments in under the head contingent liabilities and commitment. Uncalled liability on shares and investments partly paid. If the company has invested in certain shares, there are certain investments which are partly paid, Hana, but that the uncalled amount is what? The remaining liability is what? Still uncalled. So it will be shown as what? Commitments under the head contingent liabilities and commitment and other commitments. Clear? Is it clear? Simple hai na? So contingent liability and commitment ka, what are the disclosure? This is given. Now, with respect to each of the provision that has been given, so basically this is saying that the company will show what is the opening during the year, what is the addition that has been made to the provision, okay? If that provision has been used during the year, and what is the closing balance. So a reconciliation of the opening and the closing. So the carrying amount at the beginning and at the end, additional provisions, that is increases in the existing provisions, amount used and unused amounts reversed during. So basically this is saying reversals. Just a minute, reversals. And opening and closing is mentioned here. Beginning and at the end of the period. Clear? Is it clear? So Anuradha, which point is not clear? Please specify it. ठीक है? Now students, AS29 का क्या requirement है कि आपको opening भी बताना है, आपको closing भी बताना है, आपको use during the year भी बताना है, addition during the year भी बताना है, and reversal during the year भी बताना है. Further, AS29 क्या कहता है कि अगर कोई provision है ना, then the company is required to disclose. Let me just write it here. Just a minute. So just a minute. So with respect to provision, what all disclosures are required in the notes to accounts? Because you all know that जो भी accounting standard का disclosure होता है ना, that is given in where? In the notes to account. So it says, what is the nature of the obligation? Litigation के लिए है, warranty के लिए है. Expected time of the outflow कब है? ठीक है? The company is required to disclose it. ठीक है? What are the uncertainties with respect to the amount and timings? The company will have to mention. ठीक है? The assumptions that are followed with respect to the future events. कौन से assumptions लिए थे? That needs to be mentioned. ठीक है? The expected reimbursements. So what is meant by that? I'll just tell you. The amount of and the amount. What is meant by this? See, if any warranty has been given, okay, with respect to the sale of product. Now, with respect to this warranty agreement, the company has further taken, let's say, an insurance. So, agar later on there is certain claim, so let's say that is 90% insured, so 90% to मेरे को reimburse हो जाएगा ना from the insurance company. So the company will have to mention that also. Okay? So where is it given in your module? Let us just see. With respect to each class of provision, a brief description of the nature and the obligation and the timing of resulting outflow, an indication of the uncertainty with respect to amount and timing, and the assumptions with respect to future events. Okay? Expected reimbursement, stating the amount of any asset that has been recognized for that expense reimbursement. Okay? So the expected reimbursement, समझ आया कि with respect to the warranty claims that may happen in the future, the company has taken some insurance on that. Okay? So the third party will be reimbursing it directly either to the company, to the third party, or let's say it will be reimbursing it to the company. So the expected amount of reimbursement. Okay? Same way, with respect to contingent liabilities. See, contingent liability bhi the amount is shown as a contingent liability if it is not remote. So if it is, the chances of it been happening is remote. है ना, बहुत कम chances हैं, then contingent liability is not created. That is why it is mentioned, unless the possibility of any outflow in settlement is remote. An enterprise should disclose for each class of contingent liability, again, what the description, the nature, estimate of its financial impact, indication of uncertainty, and possibility of any reimbursement. Okay? So is it clear? So is it clear? So let us have a look at the disclosure requirement with respect to provision and contingent liability again. So Schedule 3, Part 1 to the Companies Act 2013, it says that long-term provision दिखाना है, short-term provision दिखाना है. Long-term provision may be provision for employee benefits like your gratuity PF and your others needs to be specified separately. This is a provision for your bad and doubtful debts. ठीक है, here it will come. ठीक है, so separately show करना है. Then contingent liability and commitments to the extent not provided for, मतलब जिसके लिए आपने provision नहीं बनाया. So contingent liabilities को कैसे show करोगे? Claims against the company not acknowledged as debt. I gave example of union, trade union or labor union asking for additional wages, but that is not acknowledged, considered as a liability by the company as such. Guarantees or other monies for which company will be contingently liable. Okay? So here any litigation claim can come. So litigation के लिए भी तो आ सकता है ना. If the company, these are what other monies में क्या आ जाएगा? Any compensation with respect to a suit that the company may have to pay. But why it is not considered as a provision, recognized as a provision? Because all those conditions were not met. So whose query was this? Anuradha, I hope your query is clear now. And with respect to commitment, the contracts remaining to be executed on capital account and not provided for, uncalled liability on shares and investments and other commitments, opening, closing, used, addition and reversal will be shown. And with respect to each class, brief description doge. See, I have mentioned it here. What is the brief description will be given? Nature of obligation kya hai? Your expected timing of outflow kya hai? Uncertainties in amount and timing kya hai? Assumptions kya hai? Expected reimbursement amount kya hai? So is it clear? With respect to provision and contingent liability, the disclosure that we have done, and with this we have finished all the captions of the balance sheet, and we have covered all the additional regulatory information also. And students, I'm repeating it again and again. Additional regulatory information, the disclosure requirements, which are as per the amended Schedule 3, which was applicable from 1st April 2021 though, but that is really very important from your examination point of view also. Okay? So I hope everything is clear. Quickly send in your replies. So Anuradha is saying, ma'am, it is clear now. Okay. Now, students, in the next session, let me just first take you through the module. So as I always tell you to go through the module before coming for the next session. So we have covered all these till the purchases, which is on page number 9.92. Okay. Next session is the last session for this chapter number 9. Uske baad we'll be starting with what? Chapter number 10. Okay. Before coming for the next session, please do the following homeworks. What are those? Point number 1, you need to go through the module in entirety till page number 9.92 till where we have covered. ठीक है, कोई भी doubt हो next session में you can always ask me. Please go through this 4.4 point employee benefit expense, है ना? And जैसे we have considered it for purchases या other income, है ना? Like with respect to the P&L item, ना, just try to visualize yourself in a situation कि आप employee benefit expense को consider कर रहे हो. So what all documents will you consider? Just first try to visualize yourself in a situation and then go through the module. So just a plain reading देके आ जाना. Don't apply minds if you don't want. But with respect to topics, till page number 9.92, you will have to read it thoroughly in entirety. Okay? And as I have already told you that before coming for the next session, I would have uploaded all the questions. So before coming for the session, please go through all the questions because it depends upon the time whether we'll be able to discuss all the questions or not. Okay? And before leaving this session for today, please do fill in the feedback forms that are given to you. There is some link. Please fill in that feedback form. And also please send in your replies whether you have understood each and every bit of it, because I have tried my level best to make you understand each and everything that is coming in your chapter number 9. Yes, Alok, let me just give you an email ID. You can message in your query on that email ID. Just wait for, give me 30 seconds. Just wait. So you can send in your queries. Let me just see if I have that email ID with me. So in case of any such query, Alok, you can mail on this email ID, auditing-inter@icai.in. ठीक है? auditing-inter@icai.in. ठीक है? So see you on Monday. And thank you for participating in this session. Thank you for making these sessions very interactive, as I've requested you in my first session. Okay? So thank you, students. Good night and utilize your weekend in studying. Before coming for the Monday session, be prepared for the new MCQs that we will discuss on in Monday's session. Okay? So thank you and good night.